Or in the square. All right. Going to admit. All right.
I just hope Jeff doesn't show up drunk
I
and
know.
start being abusive to people, and we gotta kick him out.
I mean, as soon as he opens his mouth, we might just kick him out.
Just mute him.
Yeah.
Just mute him.
Okay, let me see here. All right. I turned off the waiting room, so now we can just like let people in whenever they're ready.
Does Jeff have one of these? He's gonna be so jelly.
He doesn't. I need to send him one.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm gonna make him pay for it.
Well, you know, I'll wait till people are here to show off the other fine Rapture products I have here at the Fracassi.
I gotta start getting my drink on now. I'm in my, my book closet. Did I hear Jeff laughing?
I heard somebody. I heard a cackle.
Yeah,
there he is.
Yeah, there he is. Jeff, do you have one of
no,
these? Are you jelly?
Of course I don't. I heard I'm going to be charged for it too.
Yeah, of course.
That's-
Free
Come on,
advertising.
dude.
Wait a
Hey,
second.
man.
I should I brought my Rapture shirts.
Yeah.
Well, now I got to put it on.
Honestly, well, I don't know how cold it gets in Tennessee, but probably a lot colder than it does in California. I don't know
Well,
how
I'm not
often
in
you wear
Tennessee
that.
right now. I'm in.
It's been cold here recently.
Has it?
It's been like, dude, it gets down to like the high 50s here.
Oh my God, that is not cold.
I'm like, I wear like knit hats around the house because I'm freezing.
Oh my God, you're a baby.
I don't do below 70.
I'm in Chicago right now, and it's bitter. It is so bad.
Well, Chicago, you got the wind. That's what kills you in Chicago. You got the wind.
24 degrees, and it's 25-mile-an-hour winds. It's
See?
Yeah, that's brutal.
So I have my Rapture sweatshirt, which I'm probably gonna have to take off halfway through because it's so hot.
It's
I
a
have
sweatshirt.
I have my Journey into Night,
Oh,
Yeah.
look at that sweetness.
which is going to go into this Rapture glass,
Oh yes, we're on brand, baby.
and then of course I have my 12 year. So
Yeah,
There you go.
I don't go anywhere without my 12 year.
Yeah, Jeff, I have a surprise that I haven't told you about yet,
Uh-oh.
but Philip knows. But we're gonna keep it on the DL for now. Philip,
Okay, all right.
When I messaged
Oh.
the group today. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to wait for the perfect time to let Jeff.
Are you going to give Jeff one of those? Is that what
I
you're
don't
saying?
know. It depends. If he's
Oh my
good.
gosh. All right. Well,
All right, I'm pouring, you guys. I'm going in.
Yeah, and I just want to say welcome everybody to the first Fracassi Freaks book club. Whenever we decided to do this, I was so excited. This book has been my favorite book of the year personally. Has everybody here had a chance to read it? I know Greg has. I know Jeff has.
Yep.
yeah.
Jason. Mike's in his car.
Mike's driving. Mike's sitting the Mickey D's drive-through while he's in the Fracassi book club. I like it. I'm not against it. Give me a quarter pounder, no pickles.
Yeah, I'll take something. I could eat.
Are you an anti-pickleist like Paul Tremblay?
I'm not crazy like Paul is about pickles. I just don't like them. I like them solo. I don't like them on warm meat, which is the weirdest thing I've ever. I don't understand why that even became a thing. I am really weird about mushrooms. I'm super weird about olives. Like, yeah. So if you put a mushroom on my plate, I will flick the mushroom away because it's poison, and I will eat whatever else is on the plate. If you put an olive on my plate, the olive is gone, and anything the olive touched is also gone. That's how that. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I roll.
Olives and mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dig olives, but mushrooms, just the idea of eating fungus, I just can't get over it.
It's fungus and it's disgusting, and it's basically for wild animals to eat. That's why they exist out there in the woods. They don't Not
They're
for human
delicious and
consumption.
nutritious, and we like mushrooms in this group. Okay.
All right. Who's here? Jason's here. Mike is here. Greg, Emilion from all the way from Australia. I take it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. What time is it in Australia right now?
It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, okay,
that's spry. That's mid
Sunday, that is. Yeah.
It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, says Emilion. bringing some class to the video stream. Some accents. Yeah, whatever. I don't know, whatever, Mitch, I'll leave it up to you as to how you want to run the show here, but
yeah, I mean, originally I was thinking we stay away from like the end of the book spoilers here at the very beginning, but I think everybody here has read it, so we don't really need to be coy about spoilers.
Awesome.
I think if you come to the book club, the assumption is you've read the book.
Yeah. It's a long book though. I didn't give people a ton of time to read.
Well, I'm happy to forego ending spoilers. I'm happy to do whatever you guys want.
No. I think
I'm here for you guys.
I think we can go deep into it. Randy, I've never met you before. I'm Mitch.
Hi, Mitch.
Were you able
Hey,
to read
Randy.
the book?
Yep, I finished it up.
Okay, awesome.
Hey, Philip, how you doing?
Hey, man, nice to meet you. I don't think I've met you before either. So
Yeah, you too.
I know these other guys from
Yeah.
social media, but yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I
see
mean,
Jeff.
actually, I think a fun way to start would just be to introduce yourself and where you're at.
Okay, want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it, Randy.
Okay, I'm Randy Burnett. I'm in Pendleton, Oregon, little tiny town in Eastern Oregon, famous for a rodeo, I guess. Apparently, I work in a prison. As a matter of fact, I've been a correctional officer for like 31 years.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I've really stoked my my reading appetite the last couple of years. My New Year's resolution for this year was to read. I think I put down 20 books on Goodreads, and I made it through 55.
Wow.
Nice.
All
That's
horror.
Wow.
Probably about 10 of those were Fracassis. So
Oh, thank you, man.
Nice.
Yeah.
yeah. So that's my story, and I started.
Am I circulated to the prisoners? Did the prisoners get to read my books, or
You know, if they can order it from the publisher, they can, but I have not seen them come through. So
all right.
I don't know.
I've only sent one book to a prison before.
Oh, okay.
It was a request, but yeah, it was a thing. It was like a deal. Like,
Oh, okay. A deal.
you have to be careful what you eat.
Cigarettes?
You can just put the. Yeah, there's something weird about it. I can't remember what all went down, but he wrote me a letter later saying that he eventually got it, but they had to like take the covers off. I don't know. It was a weird thing, but
Wow. Yeah.
but he was a bad man.
Bad man. They mostly are. Except for the ones that are innocent, but you know.
Right. No, he wasn't innocent. He never came up. Well, cool, man. Well, thank you for reading the books and for being here. That's really fun. I appreciate it. And you guys can hear me clearly, right? I'm.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Jeff, how about yourself?
Well, I'm a guy with a channel. I'm normally from Chicago, but now I am abnormally from Tennessee, and yeah, I'm a Fracassi freak. I've read about 80 Fracassi books. This one is up. Well, I have one that's up next. That's going to be amazing. I can't wait to read it. So, yeah.
Jeff, are you in Chicago right now, or are you traveling?
I'm helping my sister-in-law move. So I go back to help her load her U-Haul to move, and I don't miss Chicago. I do not.
Cold
at all. It's horrible.
Yeah. So I'm from Detroit, and even Detroiters were like, screw Chicago. Chicago's free.
Really? It's
you know why? Because the wind it's like we don't get the wind in Detroit. Chicago gets the wind off the lake. For whatever reason, it doesn't hit Detroit the way it hit Chicago. So it's always colder in Chicago because of the wind chill.
It's brutal.
In LA, we don't have, and we have fire. That's it. Just fire.
Yeah, it just burns, acres and acres. And
just
you have
always
mudslides too.
Always pretty much on fire. Yeah, we don't like when the water falls from the sky. That upsets us. It confuses us and upsets us, and we don't leave our homes when that happens. Because usually houses fall down hills, and it's chaos. It's apocalyptic.
It's crazy. So yes, I've read a number of Fracassi books this last year. I think I've never read a Fracassi book until this year, and then I read them all. And
wow.
No, you read Boys in 21.
Oh, that's right. I did.
Because that didn't come out. That came out in October of 21.
Right.
Yeah.
That was great.
And you read the arc on the beach.
Yeah.
To the beach.
You took it to the. You took it to. If I remember, you took it to the beach.
Yes, I did. I I'm glad you picked up on that because I've been very subtle about it. But yeah,
You could be putting that thing on eBay right now for like bucks.
Oh yeah.
There's no way that's I'm gonna part company with that. But yeah, no, it's great, man. And if you guys have read Child with Strangers, I mean, there's so much more to get. Gothic is going to be awesome if you haven't read that one.
Yes. Yes. And what's the name of your show? It's the Jeff Word, right? On primarily YouTube. Is that right?
Oh, Greg, you gotta tune into Jeff's show. I was just talking to.
Oh, there you go. Emilion's got
nice.
the pint
Emilion's got the glass.
Awesome.
See, I don't have the glass, but I do the mug. I drink coffee out of my Jeff Word mug. But I was talking to the boys today, the admin for the Fracassi group, and I was saying one of the reasons I like the Jeff Word, besides just being a book enthusiast, but as an author, I really like hearing all the stuff that collectors don't like. So that it interests me as a collector, but it also interests me as an author because I'm always, those are things that I'm learning about. So when I publish like a deluxe edition with Thunderstorm or whoever, or Earthling or whoever it is, I always make sure like, hey, let's make sure we don't do A, B, or C because I know. So it's informative for me as an author as well as a book collector, Jeff. You should know.
Yeah, it's tough because the very nature of limited editions is they're limited. So you cannot possibly make everybody happy.
Right.
But like there's no way Stephen King is going to do a limited edition in a way that pleases his fans. There's just no way it's going to happen. And I'm actually surprised that The Long Walk isn't sold out from Centipede yet.
I wish I could buy another one. I would if I could.
I mean, it's silly. I'm shocked. I'm very, very shocked. But anyway, so there are things you can learn from collectors, but also, you are a collector. So, some of it you could throw out. Some of those feedback points are like, well, if you do a limited edition, there are some people that aren't like, they don't like right systems. They don't like XYZ, but you can't possibly do everything for everybody. But I like the model you have where you had Boys in the Valley at Earthling. And then as a trade, Josh Mallerman did that with Goblin with Earthling. And then it's a trade. And like that, I think satisfies all those diehard collectors, and you get your books in more people's shelves. And readers can enjoy, because you got collectors, you got readers, and it's all the business.
I don't think I will do another limited edition of a book that is not going to be has not already been sold to a trade publisher. It was too much disappointment from people, and I didn't like it. So I think in the moving forward, it'll either be like an Earthling followed by a Cemetery Dance kind of thing, or I'll do a deluxe after the trade edition has been released. But I don't think I'll do a limited again, at least not in the foreseeable future, because I just don't like people being disappointed, not being able to get the book, and that frustration.
That's what I like about Gothic.
Yeah,
you had it come out in November and then February, so like it was already a deal. It was already a done deal. CD was going to do it, so that anybody who didn't get one of the 235, yes, they'll be disappointed they don't have that limited version of it, but it's right there, so they're going to be able to get the book and basically read it while the other people are reading it as well. Who
wants Mitch? You still doing intros?
Yeah, Greg, go for it.
Hey, I'm Greg Green. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. Been here since 1989. Grew up in Florida, but I'm a longtime Tennessean now. I have a bunch of Phillips books, but I have many of them still to read. But I have certainly read Child Alone with Strangers and really enjoyed that quite a lot. Let me see. My day job, I work for Salesforce, the CRM and digital marketing company, and worked in healthcare marketing basically for about 19 years prior to Salesforce. And I read lots and lots of horror fiction, watch a lot of horror movies, do a little bit of writing. Oh, and my other thing is I actually, about a year and a half ago, I shot a little horror short that was part of the Symphony horror film anthology, and it's now out on DVD.
That's
so
awesome.
I'm on social media, real excited about that. But I have a little 12-minute short in this Symphony film. It's you can get it on Prime Video and Apple TV as well.
Oh, you can, Greg. I was going to ask you that.
Yeah,
Greg, you directed it and wrote it, or what? Everything?
I co-wrote and produced my short film, and my longtime collaborator. We've done theater, produced theater together for about 10 years. He co-wrote and directed it. So the short here called "The Keeper" is mine. So real proud of that. But yeah, you can go look it up on.
It is awesome.
Prime Video.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was real happy with how. I mean, it was like super micro budget thing, but we actually, the film premiered at the Brooklyn Horror Film Festival back in October, and then came out at the end of October onto Prime Video and other places. It's gotten some decent attention, but the crazy thing is that it was a bunch of people on the Clubhouse app at the kind of in the middle of the pandemic, really at the high point of the pandemic, just found each other on Clubhouse. They were interested in horror films and independent filmmaking. And one of the guys in the room was a film producer and said, "Hey, look, I'll give each of you a little pot of money to go make a film, and we'll make an anthology out of it." And I was in the right room at the right place at the right time.
That's awesome.
And got added into it. It was so crazy. I knew the guys who were talking on this. I just saw a room that was titled Horror Anthology. And I think that the executive producer meant for it to be like a closed private room, invite only, but he made it open, and I snuck in. I was like, "Oh, I like horror anthologies, like Creep Show and whatever." So I went in there and I start realizing, wait, they're talking about making a movie, and he's talking about giving money to people in the room. I wonder if I stay here, if they'll offer me money, and they did.
Wow!
So it was crazy. Not a whole lot of money, but. Yeah. Yes. It's just been kind of crazy, and now the other creators in this project, they're like friends of mine. Like we all finally, at least I met them all finally in Brooklyn a few weeks ago. It was so cool. But anyway, that's a little bit of what I do.
Very
awesome.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Jason, do you have a mic?
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
Oh, you're
yeah,
good.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, I'm just a fan. So I'm out of.
Are you M as in Murphy?
Say what?
Is your last name? What's your last name?
McDonald.
Oh, McDonald. Okay, yeah. I sent you some books, right?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
I sent to Jason Murphy and a Jason McDonald, so I wasn't sure which Jason you were. So nice to meet you, man. Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you too. Yeah, I'm out of Wichita, Kansas. Just like I said, just a fan. I'm an engineer for Hormel Foods and working mostly with the maintenance department. And I just actually I got introduced from Fracassi through the Jeff Word group.
Oh, cool.
He obviously is a big fan, and so I looked into it and kind of missed out on a lot of the limited, but jumping on the bandwagon after the fact.
I know. I get a lot of.
No, I don't. Well,
the Thunderstorm Beneath the Pale Sky, and
yes, I did get that one through Camelot.
Nice.
But
well, make sure
I think that might be the only one.
Well, yeah, but make sure if you got that numbered from Camelot, make sure you email Kim or whoever, because you should get the you should be first in line anyway to get the Behold the Void Deluxe that's coming out next year. So
nice.
Yeah, you should. Hopefully they'll give you the first crack at matching your number and stuff. Because Camelot usually gets like, right, Jeff, they get like X amount of
Yeah.
You get the same
Yeah.
numbers every time, I assume. I would
If you
assume.
buy, if you like, I've known with Suntop and with some other publishers, if you buy your number through them, then you have to keep buying your number through them. You can't just switch it over to direct from the publisher. So they want to ensure that the numbers allotted to them, they move. But you should be able. Kim and Tony are great, and I think you should be able to.
But because Behold the Void is already technically sold out, because it's selling.
It's paired,
It's paired with the Beneath the Pale Sky. Just make sure. So just check on it, Jason, if you want that second one. And then No One Is Safe. I've already sold to Thunderstorm as well, which is my third collection coming out next October as a trade edition from Lethe, but then Thunderstorm will do it like in spring of 2024. So we're gonna try and keep it uniform, like a nice.
That's so cool.
A nice trilogy set. Before I die, I'd like to have that nice.
And is Tomislav the same artist on all three?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I got sorry to sidebar, I got Kevin Lucia's book yesterday from Thunderstorm. And man, it is stunning. Like it is it's nice, the jacket's nice, the book is oversized, but the binding, the boards are like, I'm sure it's faux leather, but it's like this really rich taste, like leather. Like it's really just feels really good.
Have you ever gotten?
I have gotten one, but I guess I didn't. I don't know. I guess for whatever reason I didn't really. I think I have Richard Chismar's Thunderstorm book, but and then
I sold it.
But then the end papers are like fabric. It's really nice. It's a really nice book. So I'm excited to see Beneath the Pale Sky.
I cannot wait for that. It's going to be so sick. Mm-hmm. All right, Emilian, you're up next. Did I say that right? Emilian?
Emilian.
Emilian. Oh God,
Emilian.
Emilian.
It's not that hard. It looks harder in print than it does when you say it. But no, I'm from a small suburb in the northern suburbs of Melbourne. Today it's 27 and sunny and hot outside, just to compare it with where you guys are. We've had a bit of a lean summer, but hopefully it gets better as we move on to the next month or two. I've been reading since I've been a teenager. I think for me, it ramped up during COVID. I was working from home. I've been working from home nearly for 2.5, 3 years now. It just frees up a bit of time to do some reading, collecting, and all that sort of stuff. And I've got a massive King and Clive Barker collection, including the 2 original art pieces you see behind me. It wasn't until probably late last year that I ventured out of the King and Barker realm and started to dabble in other authors. And Philip, you came up during that period, and a few others as well, with Melman and Melfi and that sort of thing. The best part about it is, of course, you open your eyes to different authors, but the worst part is I think I've got about 120 books on my to-be-read pile.
That's not a bad thing. That's okay. That's normal.
Yeah. Well,
hey, Emilian, are you not to regionalize you? Are you a Alan Baxter fan? He's
absolutely
He's a wonderful writer. Yeah,
we chat every now and again just to keep him honest.
He's a really nice guy and a very nice, very good writer. Yeah.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, so it's really good. I mean, unfortunately for me, given the mail the way it is now and the shipping, close to Christmas, I'm still waiting on 2 or 3 books. So all yours, by the way, and some beautiful brew from my friend Mitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
all the way to Australia. Wow.
That's just apple juice. So, but until the brew comes out. I'll sell.
This is also just apple juice, in case anybody. It is not a 12-year Scotch.
Last I checked the tracking on your package, it was in Chicago, so Jeff might steal it.
I'll swing by and get it. I'm sorry, Emilian. 2 of them didn't make it, so
yeah.
The cans all burst in transit.
And the other thing is, and this is really critical, and I reckon you're all a part of it, is this whole collecting groupies that we are. I mean, that book above Mitch's right-hand shoulder there is very hard to find, and we're all looking for it.
Yeah.
So
that's why I put it there.
This is the one I get. This is the one I get asked about the most.
Oh God, I want that book so bad.
I have one. Like literally, that's it.
Ugh.
But
So-
that's what
so-
we
so
have
I think
on
there's-
Monday.
I think there was one guy in, I don't know if he's in Fracassi Freaks or not, but he had 2 copies of The Egotist. And offline, I was offering him everything for a copy of one
I
of
think
them.
that was Joel's son. Was it Joel Sunquist who had 2 copies? I can't remember. Or was it Eric?
Yeah, I think it might be. Yeah.
It might have been Eric
said,
Mann.
what-
No,
and I
Eric Mann
said, what
doesn't,
about
Eric
this?
doesn't have a copy because he asked me.
I said, I'll swap you a couple of Clive Barker books. I'll swap you this. I'll give you cash. I tried everything under the sun, but he wouldn't let go of either of them. So,
Huh.
Yeah, I know
Wow.
Stephen Dwayne Allison Jr. was trying for that too.
Yes. Steven doesn't have one either. I know. I wish I had a box of them somewhere, but unlike Cemetery Dance, I don't find boxes of books.
Oh wow! Look
It was
what we-
no
Hey,
bad.
great news, guys. We found 3 boxes of PCs.
Yeah.
Hey, I love CD. They're my publisher. But they do find books a lot,
They
mysteriously.
do.
Whenever they seem to need to make a payment or something.
They got to keep the lights on, please. Just let them keep the lights on. And
Look at Jeff defending. I love it.
yeah, I'm very
What a
selfish.
fanboy!
I just want to get my copies of. the
You're a
Stanley
CD
Gothic.
fanboy, Jeff.
He's
Yeah.
so obsessed. He made a chiz mug. I mean, he's so obsessed.
yeah.
That's how much of a fanboy he is. He made a Richard Chisholm mug.
He's so obsessed with
Puts
chiz.
Jesus cut on that mug.
He lives rent free in my head. That guy.
I'm surprised Bidwell's not here. I would have thought he would have come.
I know.
Maybe he can't make it. People have lives, so
Yeah,
I
unfortunately.
got a quick thing for
not that you
Amelia.
guys don't have lives. I mean, people have stuff. They have commitments. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Hey, could you do an audio book of A Child Alone and voice Liam's lines for me, please?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
awesome.
Amelia. Yeah.
So I just did a reading at our little bookstore in Encinitas, California, which is just north of San Diego, called Artifact Books. And I was reading, and the bookstore owner, who's a very sweet guy named Greg Mullins, and I read a passage, and Liam's character was in that passage. And after I was done reading, he turned to me, he said, "I hope that wasn't an Australian accent you were trying to do there." I was like, "I know, you got to do the thing." And I was like, let's just move on. Let's just keep going.
Yeah.
That's
It was I absolutely butchered it. Yeah, it was horrible. I don't like
I'd
reading
love-
my books out. I don't like reading my own books. I really don't. I wish it's not a
Yeah.
thing I'm a fan of.
Yeah, I
I'd
was
love to
hoping
see you do a-
Eric Fox was going to join us because didn't he do the Gothic audiobook?
Yeah.
Oh,
for sure
really?
He did. Mhm.
Yeah, because
And he's a-
I think he responded to the group or the event or something. And so I was hoping he was going to join.
maybe he'll
he
pop
won't
in. Who
join.
knows? It's the holidays. People,
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah.
Mike, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm on my phone. My phone's about to die. I'm sitting in the car.
Oh,
outside
no.
the phone. But I'm Mike Hughes from West Virginia, small town. I was introduced to Fracassi from the Jeff Word. I stumbled on his YouTube channel early this year, and since then I've read almost all of Fracassi's stuff except The Egotist and Beneath the Pale Sky. I haven't read yet, but I finished up Beneath the Void today, which was incredible.
Oh, thanks, man.
Nice.
The final story in that, the long one with the 2 kids, the one that got handcuffed to the rail.
Yeah,
Mandala. Yeah.
it's so good.
That was an incredible story. I loved it. I loved The Child. It's my best book. I would say the last 4 or 5 years, that's probably the best thing I've read. I really
you.
Same
Yeah.
here.
I have 2 copies currently. I've got another one coming from Philip. Hopefully he signed it to me and Stephanie, and
Yep.
we'll get it here shortly, which I'll treasure. But I'm a big book fan. I've read books ever since I was 7 or 8, and when my mom got me started, and me and my wife Stephanie has just started collecting about 10 years ago, and we have about 2,000 books. We have a bedroom dedicated just to the book, and I had to cut down a couple years ago. We had almost 5,000 books, but all the paperbacks I got rid of. So now it's all pretty much hardbacks, and so we're trying to get into the limited game. But yeah, Philip has surpassed Stephen King and Joe Lansdale in our house. Philip is now my number 1.
Oh, that's
Nice.
awesome.
Thank you. That's very sweet. Thank you. I
have
don't.
all of Stephen King's books. I have 218 now, Joe Lansdale books. So they were my top two. And now I think Philip Fracassi has taken over. So I'm made up. I love books. I have to have everything. If I really like the author, I have to have everything they write. So yeah, I'll be a Fracassi fan for life. So
that's awesome.
Oh yeah. Thank you, Mike. It's very sweet.
Personally, I know no other book collectors beside myself, except for online friends. I've got friends all over the country and in Europe that I talk to online, and we share some ebooks and stuff. But yeah, I'm a big time book geek, so I just love it.
That's great. Love to hear it. Steven, I don't
Steven's
know.
not
You're
even there.
Walking back and forth.
What do you want, guys?
Steven, do you want to introduce yourself?
Dwayne Allison Jr. I'm a human. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I need some verification on that human.
And I wonder,
I don't know if I believe you.
this amazing holiday card today.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking for.
Family.
I'm looking forward to my Mitch holiday card. I heard one's on the way.
It's coming. It's coming. Jeff might
I
have
do
one
love
coming
it.
too.
It's precious. It was a great gesture. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
It does mean a lot. I've never received one of those before, ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Wow.
Well, I'm glad I sent you one.
Just the circles I grew up in. It wasn't really their thing, I guess.
For the record, I got $5 as it was Mitch's wife that sent you one, but that's beside the point.
Actually,
I was accidentally on a mailing
I
list.
put the address.
Right. She was like, "Do you want to send any cards to any of your friends?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, honey. Let me get you a list of
That is
4
100%
people."
what happened. I was like, I don't have any friends.
I'm sending
Oh,
these
wait.
4,000 cards out. Oh, can I add my 4 buddies from the Facebook group? Great, thanks.
They're like, oh,
Thanks,
these are
honey.
real people?
Yeah.
They are.
We spend real money on these books too.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I'll introduce myself real quick. My name is Mitch. I'm one of the admins of the Fracassi Freaks group. I started reading Philip in 2021. And now I've read pretty much everything you've released and unreleased. Except for the Blue Butterfly. That's a new one. And I haven't read The Egotist yet. And there's a couple like short stories that I haven't gotten to yet, but yeah, I mean,
Well, that's good. You want to have something to look forward to. You don't want to.
I'm probably gonna finish them up in the next month or so, so I can be done and then just move on, close the group, delete it.
Right.
And just-
Luckily, I've stopped writing as of December 2022. So
right, yeah, you have nothing else coming out, right?
Yeah.
No, I love this group. We kind of just started it on a whim during one of Jeff's Monday Night Lives.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I'm gonna start a Fracassi Freaks page. And then Steven was like, I'm going to. And then Josh was like, I'm going to. And I was like,
I'll tell you a true story. I was here at my house, and it was just like, I think it was like January was it just January this year, maybe? I don't remember. And I think because I remember I just gotten back from traveling to Detroit, and I was like, anyway, and my phone dinged, and it was a invite to a Fracassi Freaks group, and I was like, "What is this?" And it was such a nice thing, and so I really appreciate you guys doing that. I was very touched.
But I think
And it's grown pretty good, right? I mean,
it has, yeah.
380 people or whatever. I don't know.
what I think's great
Wow.
about it is that you're participating in it, and
Well, I love
that
it.
is
Makes
huge.
all the difference.
Yeah.
Are
I
we
love it.
scripting now?
Yep.
Okay. Everybody
Fun
take an
group,
article.
too.
Advertising is over.
Yeah.
It's just
you-
LA. It's like 80
California.
degrees here.
Yeah, no, that group is has been so much fun. Like one of the highlights of my year. And it's like you guys make it all the better. Philip, especially you. I mean, it's very cool to have the author in there, but everybody being so involved and like even this, book club. It's just so
And
much
my
fun.
mom joined today, which
Yes,
is
that was special.
The
like, let's welcome our new members, Karen Fracassi. I was like, all right, guys, seriously, everyone be cool. My mom.
On top of Nancy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it.
But yeah. I was very surprised that she found it, to be honest, but it's cool.
Proud of her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that we're here, we know everyone. Let's talk about the book. What'd you guys think?
Well,
Philip, did you read it? Did you have a chance?
Should I leave for a minute and come back?
No, it was. I can't see. I mean, what are the ratings on Goodreads? I can't see how anybody could have a real substantive problem with the book. The book is awesome. It's got everything. I think there are passages that give you chills and passages, that just are just fun. Like you read through them, it's a page turner, but also really contemplative. I don't know, in some parts too. So a little bit of claustrophobia. I think everything that gives me the willies, like being a prisoner, I'm claustrophobic. I can't stand that. The bugs. I mean, there are bugs.
Dude. The bugs.
Just so much. I think it has, and yeah, it reminded me a little bit of The Listener too, because there's
I've heard that a couple times, which is interesting.
Did you read The Listener? I
haven't read it, no, but I really want to now because I've heard comparisons of
McCammon.
It's a cemetery dance book, yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically the element that reminds, I'm sure why you've heard that is it's a heist. These guys, this really bad guy wants to kidnap this like he's a railroad pioneer or whatever, railroad baron.
I agree with this.
Kidnap his kids, huh?
I said no. I totally agree with the comparing to The Listener.
Yeah, really? Okay. I'll have to read it.
So there are those elements that reminded me, but it's totally its own thing. And I swear, I was in like page 170, and I'm like, all they have to do is arrange a ransom. What else is going to happen?
Right.
This is done. They got the kid. They're in the thing. And I got to ask you, how hard was it for you to conceive of this crime and all the workings of it? Like, I'm always fascinated by that when an author writes a story about a heist, and they're like, okay, well, this has to happen and this has to happen, and to show how thoroughly the characters thought about the consequences and how to avoid them. How hard was that?
Yeah, it was actually interesting because there were moments when I was writing the book where I was worried that the actual kidnapping part was getting lost, especially after they got to the house and the creature stuff starting. So I was kind of like, I got to make sure to remember that they're still kidnappers and they're still trying to finish this transaction.
From that.
So that was actually something that I had to kind of come back to and create more substance around, because I got carried away a little bit with the monster and the house stuff and all that was going on with Henry and everything else. And I kind of didn't forget, but I think the story lost a little bit of, don't forget, there's still a kidnapping. They're still planning on picking up this money. And it was almost like Jim Cady kept reminding me every 50 pages or so, like, hey man, we need to get our money. We need to get paid. And I was like, oh, that's right, Jim, I got you. So, so yeah. And I was lucky. And I mentioned this in the acknowledgements. I was lucky to have access to a CIA agent who's a friend a friend of a friend, I should say, who I got on the phone with a few times. I would send him passages. I would send him outline notes. And he would be like, and we'd hop on the phone and he'd be like, okay, this is exactly what would happen next, kind of thing. So, and actually it was interesting because when I was going through the editorial process with Skyhorse, one of the things the editor mentioned, who's an idiot, was no, they were idiots, but they yeah. But that's a longer story. But anyway, one of the things that said was like, they pointed to the part where they brought in the hostage rescue team and Sally was meeting the hostage rescue team at the airfield in the military base, and she literally, her note was totally unrealistic. And I was like, actually, this is exactly what would have happened. And
Wow.
based this is what I was told. And not only told, but he went on about how they utilize military bases, how they have a 2-hour response. Like, he was very specific about it, and we got really into the nuts and bolts of it. So all that stuff, all the procedural stuff is actually, for that time period, is actually dead on, which I was surprised about, because I was kind of like, this seems like overkill, but that's legit how they would have operated. And he was actually a really interesting cat, because he was saying stuff too about like the relationship between the police and the FBI. And he was saying how the movies have a lot of it wrong. The whole, like, we're coming in and we're taking over the case and all that kind of stuff. He's like, they are like, the FBI relies very, very heavily on local police, because they know the area, they know the players, they know they like their major resource. So he's like, it's actually, we more like kowtow a bit to them, and and really utilize them. So it's so it was a lot of interesting stuff. So yeah, but the procedural stuff was really fascinating for me. This guy was a particularly amazing resource, and the blurb on the cover by J. Todd Scott. For those who don't know J. Todd Scott, Todd is actually a DEA agent. He's head of the Louisville office, DEA office, and he's a friend of mine, and he's a writer, very successful writer, crime writer, and he read the book, an early draft of the book, and I asked him, I said, please flag anything that you feel isn't realistic, and he came back and he was like, nope, like this all is legit. So that was a really nice second reading on that stuff. So yeah, so the crime, and I loved it. I have another crime novel. I told some of you guys before, we've been on Zooms and stuff, called The Chariot, that I want to write, and I'll probably end up writing it in 2024. But that's another big crime horror novel that I want to write. That'll be probably my next big novel, because it's a lot. It won't be monsters and little kids. It'll be a little more brutal, a little more adult. So yeah, but that's another crime novel that I'm going to be writing. But I need an expansive time to write that one, because I really want to get it right. I don't want to rush it. But it'll be another big, I imagine it'll be right around that 500, 600 page mark when I'm done with it.
I would love that.
Cool.
Nice.
If I could jump in real quick, guys.
Yeah, Randy. Yeah.
Part of my job at the prison is I'm on the hostage rescue team, hostage negotiation.
Oh,
team.
really? Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah.
And I'm the team leader right now. I'm about ready to retire, but I'm the team leader right now. And as I was going through it, I caught hint of what was going to be happening. I was going, okay, let's see if he gets this right.
Oh,
cool.
That's cool.
Let's see. And thumbs up.
Congratulations.
Oh, really? Man, that's awesome.
I'll vouch for your buddies. Your friends saying everything was good to go, because it was.
Yeah, and it was a little tricky, Randy, because if you're retiring, you might know this. It was like I think the book takes place in
95,
92?
right?
95 or 92,
Oh,
yes,
95.
early 90s. But it was tricky because the hostage rescue team, right, only started.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things that hadn't happened, that were just kind of ramping. A lot of things that are used in the book were really just starting in
That's
the
true.
late 80s, early 90s. So I had to make sure that it was accurate to the time as well. But that's really great.
Yeah,
And if I
great
got
job.
anything
Yeah.
wrong, I'm sure I might have gotten a couple things wrong because I was making a lot of it up. But
Yeah,
but
I've
it's-
trained with FBI in my in different levels I've gone through, and in fact, one of them was one of the negotiators down at Waco, and I picked his
Wow.
brain.
yeah, I knew an FBI guy at Waco. He's a sniper.
Yeah.
His name is Christopher. I would call him Witt. But he's got a few books out. But he wrote an autobiography about his time as an FBI sniper. But he was at Waco as well. And but that's really fascinating that you were in the. So yeah, so I'm glad to hear that you feel like for the most part, I got it right.
It was, it didn't take me out of the story at all. I was
Even to the right? Like I think the gear was right and everything. I
Yeah.
did try.
Yeah. I was, I'm more on the negotiation end, on the other end of the phone, trying to talk the guy out. But we work hand in hand with our SWAT team which is basically our hostage rescue team.
Right. They the SWAT team. And then I also spoke with the Ranger because there was a Ranger in that finale.
Yeah.
And I spoke with the Ranger as well. And they were like, Rangers are, Rangers are badass, man. Like they're not the Yogi Bear guys who the FBI, like they rely, and that was a big part of we rely on these guys. Like they know that area, they know the trails, they know the hidden, paths and all that kind of stuff, and they know the terrain. And so so having that Ranger a big part of it too. So yeah, all that stuff was definitely stuff I learned from talking to the real folks who put their lives on the line to do that kind of stuff. So cool. Even the plane, the thermal thing that the plane used, that was legit for that time. That was my friend, the sniper, told me about that. I asked him how they could maybe see, and he told me about that would have been available to them. So I had a few resources, but my CAA guy, who I think in the back of the book, was a major resource for a lot of that stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, cool. So why did you set it in the 90s?
No, that was my question.
I was just curious the whole way through. Because I think it makes it, everybody has a cell phone now and everything is so recorded, but I was just wondering what the reasoning was.
Also, let me jump in before you start answering, Philip. The original arc that I have was set in 1983.
The 80s, right?
Change it to 95.
Right.
That's taking it one more step, Jeff.
I see. Yeah.
I wouldn't let Jeff read the arc. Yeah, no, I originally said in the 80s, and the reason I moved it to the 90s was exactly for what we're talking about, because I wanted a lot of the procedural stuff to be realistic, and a lot of the stuff that I wanted in the book wasn't available in the 80s. So and the reason I made it, so that's why I made it in the 90s. The reason I made it in the 80s originally was because I wanted it to be a period piece where it was kind of what I like to think of as that sort of like innocent time where before technology took over everything, because this was really about the characters and them being trapped and secluded in this like house. And I just felt if I placed it in modern times, it would just be too hard to kind of isolate them. And I wanted their communication to be kind of ragged. So there was a lot of it was that I wanted I wanted to feel more isolated. I wanted it to feel less technically modern for everything. Even like the when the guys come to the house and they set up the phone tap. I wanted that to be like old school. It just felt, the story felt kind of like an old school story.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to keep it in that kind of that pre-Twitter time. And so that's why. But yeah, in the early 90s were actually interesting because a lot of the technology was there for people like the FBI and people like the CIA and people like the police department, but they weren't there for civilians. So I thought that was, so I thought that was an interesting kind of crossover period to set the story in. Because I really wanted what happened in the farmhouse to feel very isolated. I wanted that life raft in the middle of the water kind of feel, that so that's kind of one of the reasons I didn't want them to be able to hop on a cell phone. And I hate the whole like, oh man, anyone else got coverage? No, it's always like the second line in a horror movie, right? They're like, man, I have no bars, bro. Like I always just shake, like, no. So but that's primarily why. It also was a function of characters, to be honest. Yeah. But if I'm being honest, it was also a function of technology.
I could see Jim taking everybody's cell phones and putting them in a box far away. But then somebody sneaks one in,
Yeah, I could have done it. And also I just think it was like I don't know. I just think it was more, I think communication being more difficult makes for a more interesting story. Yeah. You got to drive to get to the payphone. You got to you got to, he had to mail the letter. Like, there's just a lot more fun, tactile stuff versus like, oh, we're going to send an encrypted message to the blah, blah, blah server. It's like so boring to me. I really wanted it to be like, when Greg drives off the ramp and he finds the post office box in the neighborhood and he drops the ransom letter with his gloves on. I don't know. I just thought that it's like so much more fun than just all the technology. So that's kind of why I don't know if I would do it again, but that was why I did it for this story.
Yeah. The first thing for me, if I can jump in, is obviously we read a lot of books between all of us, obviously, and I don't know if you're like me, you want something to jump out at you at the start to keep you gripped as you move through the book. And I don't know what's more gripping than a dad holding his son and walking in front of a bus.
Oh my gosh.
So that was welcome to the book, Philip. Thanks for that. That came out of nowhere. It was
a top-notch.
Well, I have an Emilion story. Hold on. I have an Emilion story. Emilion texted me or messaged me.
Yep.
And he was like, this is not about Charles, this is about boys, right? Emilion?
Yes.
Yeah. And he was like, oh shoot, it's a spoiler. God damn it. I can't tell the story.
Have we all read Boys?
Have you all read Boys or no?
I haven't.
No, okay. I won't give it away. But Emilion was very upset. Let's put it this way. Emilion was very upset with me.
Yep. I was crying and I was texting him saying,
he was legit mad, I think. I don't think he was like a cute sort of like, hey, you ruined my day, mister. I think he was like, what are you doing to me?
That is awesome.
When I did a podcast with Neil, who does Talking Scared podcast, and he was legit upset about baby dying. Like,
really?
Me too.
Legit upset.
So
like he messaged me and he was like, I like you. I love your writing. I hope you're successful, but go fuck yourself. And he was like, he was pissed.
Funny.
The worst part.
He brought it up like 4 times. He's like, you broke my heart, dude. And I was like,
yeah,
you're welcome.
The worst part about baby dying, and so I know that me and Greg helped with the editing back in the day with the arc. And so I reread it and it was a really cool experience. And that was another thing that kind of surprised me, reading it 2 times in 1 year. I was like, I wonder if it'll feel like boring at all, because I already know it's going to happen. But I liked it even more this second time through.
Oh, that's good to hear.
And I picked up on a lot of things that I just completely missed. And it's a different reading experience whenever you're looking for errors and just enjoying it. But man, whenever baby died and it said mother, like this is the first time she got to like touch baby.
Oh, yeah.
It was like whenever baby's dead, I was like, oh my God.
Isn't it wild?
Terrible.
So Mitch, so your first read was the arc and then your second read was the actual book. Is that right? So you've read both versions?
No, so I read the digital arc.
My wife is getting me another drink because she loves me.
It's the best.
Happy.
Hey. I read the digital arc.
Okay.
Yeah.
Greg, did you read both versions or no?
No, I read the one set in the 90s.
Okay. Greg, by the way, Greg has done some very some wonderful proof reading for me for some of my more recent. He's a better editor than the professional editors that I've used, so I fall back on Greg. I'm like, hey, will you look at this? Because the publisher editors sometimes miss stuff and Greg doesn't miss it. So.
Yeah, whenever we did that arc reading, I can't remember how many errors I found, but I was like, man, I found a lot.
Well,
we found like 200. I was like, what?
Yeah, the art. Oh, you mean of the?
I think I read both. Which one's this?
Oh yeah, so Stephen, that's the one that went out like Jeffrey. That's the early one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you read also the new one?
The book that you sent me.
Oh yeah, so you read both versions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious if you felt it was as. I wonder if you felt it was a different experience, because I think the published book is so much better than that early draft. But I don't know if you thought that when you were reading it or not.
Yeah, it's like when you listen to music, like if it's mastered better.
It's like a demo tape and a yeah. But there's so many errors.
It's great. I mean, I love this.
There were so many errors in that
like
book. It was ridiculous.
But
thank you.
It's a masterpiece. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Well, I think it's wild that you got us to cry for an alien that's going to eat humans.
Right.
And also, you know, every time you have a dad take his son intending to murder his son into traffic, and I never hated the dad. Like,
Right.
As I'm reading along, I'm like, wait a second, this guy tried to kill his son. But I sympathized, and I felt so horrible for him that he got to that lowly place, that he took his son there. But so I had to keep reminding myself, like, this guy is the cause of his son's torment. Like, can he have just kept it together for his son instead of doing that? But I never hated the dad. And that's crazy to me, to have sympathy for a guy who would do that.
Well, you know, I played a lot of that emotional argument out in Dave's character. So Uncle Dave. So Dave goes through those, right? He's like, he wants to hate his brother, but he can't, but he wants to. And like when they have that, when there's that dream sequence, when the dad shows Dave where Henry is being held, that was sort of like a double, you know, thematically, there was two reasons for that dream sequence. One was because I wanted Dave and his brother to have one last conversation moment where, and I think Dave, I can't remember exactly, but I think Dave said something about like, I want to hate you, but I can't. And then the dad whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, but he shows him this dream. And you know what? It's interesting about that dream sequence is, and I learned this from reading Stephen King, is a lot of times you feel like, oh, this is one step too far. And then you read Stephen King and you're like, oh, fuck it. I mean, if he can do that, then I'm, and it's almost what's fun about King, right? It's like, he's just like, you know what? Nah, there's like this totally insane thing that happens and it makes no sense and it's all fantasy, but it's great and it's fun. And that's kind of, so when I remember writing that dream sequence and thinking about King and being like, you know what? I think it's okay. I think it's like, sometimes it just happens. And I think that's what makes it a book fun. And for the reader is like, you know, I mean, you want it to have at least a toe in logic, at least the story logic. But I also like that it's just like doing something that is completely unexpected. And I think that is one of the reasons I've always loved reading Stephen King, is because he does stuff that you just don't expect him to do.
But I think that's the brilliance of it, because if you told me that I'm going to sympathize and really feel bad. See, the thing is, when Dave confronts his brother and says, I want to hate you and I can't, and I understand that, if I, as a reader, wasn't already convinced of that, I would just think Dave's a moron and he's blinded by his love for his brother. But I agreed with him, and I saw that side, and I say this is the reason why you wrote such a great book and you did it so well is that you convinced me of something that I never would have been convinced of. And if I walked around and I said, hey, here's the story, but you got to really feel bad for this guy, and everybody else would be like, no, why? He did this to his son.
Yeah.
But then you come back with like, well, you had to be there. I swear to God, you would feel sorry for this guy. And because you created that world, and the same thing with Stephen King, he created a vending machine in Tommyknockers that killed people. A vending machine. He made a vending machine terrifying. And you're like, if you explain that to anybody else, they're like,
he also made a laundry press terrifying.
Yes, the mango. Yeah.
Right.
But
what surprised me
being there. Yeah.
Along the same lines is what Jeff was saying. What surprised me is that I felt sorry for the bad guys after when plague upon plague is being visited on them. And Jim Cady's hard to sympathize with in any fashion, but just one horrible thing after another, and just like these guys are not going to, it's not going to get through their thick skulls. They want the money, or at least they don't want to be beaten by circumstances or whatever, or some kid with his freaky powers or whatever's going on. And it just gets worse and worse for them. I actually started to feel sorry for these horrible bad guys. I was quite surprised to find myself feeling that way.
The Home Alone turn.
Yeah.
So and that was a fight on my end, because I wanted a lot of their backstory in the book, and I wanted not necessarily to create a ton of sympathy for them, because they're not really owed that, but I wanted to at least explain how they became the people they became. And then her mother preying on their worst memories, that whole sequence, like the editor wanted to cut that entire section of the book.
No way.
And I was, because they thought it was superfluous to the story. And I said, it's not superfluous at all. It's what makes their characters,
It's
come off
it's
as
how they all
come
ended
across
up in that room.
Yeah, I said I think it's important for the reader to feel the fear and the pain and the sorrow that these characters felt, in their lives. And this is the best way to make readers feel that, is to put them into these worst case scenarios with like the ants eating him alive, and with and that kind of stuff. So I had to fight for a lot of that, but I'm glad. So it's nice to hear. But that's exactly why, other than it being fun, fun horror stuff. But that's also why I wanted those nightmares to be part of it, because I really wanted to show, like, I wanted to put the reader into these lives and be like, if it was you and you were sleeping on a metal sign in the backyard, and you're, maybe you would, feel differently about life, and about what life owes you, and about, that's the thing, is I think people, and Randy probably runs into this a lot, is I'm sure you run into a lot of prisoners who you probably somewhat realize, like, they're not bad. They don't have bad hearts. But they've grown up in bad circumstances, and it's made them who they are. So that's one of the things I tried to put into the book. I didn't want you to like the villains, but I wanted you to at least understand the villains and understand their motivation. So that's why I had a lot of that stuff in there. Also, it was fun to have like bugs eating people and stuff like that.
The only time you ever get like a pure evil character is with like Randall Flagg. He's the devil or whatever.
Supernatural. Yeah.
Humans are adaptable, and if they adapt to bad environments, they can become and do bad things. And it's the same thing when you look at with mother and baby. Like, they are an organism. They're trying to survive. Like, we happen to be, as humans, the top of the food chain, so we don't know what it is to be preyed upon, except by other humans, and that's not like the natural order of things. But this animal's just trying to exist. I don't know, and it's interesting, and I appreciated those backstories, because yes, at some point, your past becomes your responsibility. That's true, and they went that path, and then the only one I really felt sorry for truly was Liam. But that is understandable, and you could see the parallel between him and Henry a little bit. Like, he lost his son, Henry lost his dad, and there's a little bit of that.
Yeah. So I saw, when I was writing the book, I saw Jim and Henry as being mirror images of each other.
Oh, like opposite. Oh, yeah.
Mirror opposites of each other. But also just, they had so much in common. And I think that's why Jim had a lot of reluctant respect for Henry, because they're both so smart and they're both so driven, and strong, in their own ways. And Liam was an interesting character, because Liam was sort of this like go-between between the two of them. And he kept like, and he was sort of like, so if you think of Jim and Henry like this, and I don't have three hands, and Liam sort of kind of wavering between the two of them, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And that was one of the things I played with in the book, was I really wanted Liam to be kind of like, okay, I'm leaning more towards Jim right now, and I'm leaning more towards Henry right now. So he was his character was really a fascinating one to write. And I was going to say, Emilion, you know what? I don't think I thanked him in the book, and I'm just realizing this just now. I don't think I thanked him in the acknowledgments, and I should actually apologize. But Alan Baxter, did I thank him? Alan Baxter read a lot of that Australian stuff. Everyone's reaching for their books. Let's see what they no, you guys tell me, please. Look at the acknowledgments. I think I did. But anyway, but yeah, so that dynamic was a really interesting one to play with. Because I liked the fact
Baxter's in here. Just
okay,
so
good.
you know.
Okay, good. Because I really loved how Liam, he wasn't wishy-washy as much as he was like just trying to figure out the right path, forward. And when one of the hardest moments of the book to write, and I think probably one of the hardest moments, or would like to think one of the harder moments of the book to read. I'm in LA, so this is every 5 seconds, the sirens.
Oh yeah.
Was when Liam, when Henry mentions Liam's son, and Liam basically just
trashes him,
loses it, and
Yep.
and beats Henry and kicks it, and like it's a very hard scene. It was a very hard scene to write because I've been in that situation as a kid, and it's not fun. And so having him completely lose it and just basically beat the shit out of Henry was for me one of the harder scenes to write, and I think one of the more pivotal scenes in the book, because at that point in the story you're just beginning to think like, hey, maybe Liam's like this good guy who's like going to come through and be Henry's friend, and that's the trope that Phillips, and then I just smash it to pieces because I don't want anyone to know what's coming. So yeah, that was for me, that was one of the most important scenes of the book. It's not one that's mentioned a lot, but as a writer, that was a huge scene for me because I really wanted Liam to not be a good guy. But at the end of the day, be the reason Henry survives, basically.
Yeah.
But I think Henry blamed himself for that as well, I think at that point, didn't he? If I
Sorry,
remember correctly. I think Henry blamed himself for prodding the whatever.
Henry was too brave for his own good a few times in the book. Yeah. He did blame himself, but I think, yeah. And it's a consequence of, not knowing when to shut up. And he was in that. Yeah. And it's like, it's interesting because it's another scenario where he's a brave little kid, but he's also a little kid, and his judgment is not necessarily finely tuned as someone who's been through a lot of experience. So he kind of went too far a couple of times, and he paid the price. And it was interesting for me writing Henry that he was realizing that and really, okay, now I know that that's probably too far. And yeah. And I'll tell you another thing about this is going back earlier to the time question, is I really want to write a modern day sequel.
I would love that.
Oh, well, yeah, I saw you saying something about that with Henry as an adult, right?
Yeah. So I really want to write. So I'll tell you guys all a secret. I think Mitch knows. I think maybe Jeff knows. But I have a book called Gothic. I think Steven knows. I know. I see Steven. And in Gothic, there's a detective character who finds the desk, the scary desk. And originally, my original manuscript for that story, that was Henry. And there was more in the novel about the detective having telepathic abilities, and my agent actually said no one's going to know what this means, and it's too out of left field, so let's just make him a normal detective. So I took out some of the telepathic ability stuff and I changed his name, but originally that was Henry. But so now but I really want to make another book about Henry as an adult. I have some really interesting ideas about what to do with that, and Mother's still around, and it gets more into Mother and into the other civilization that she comes from, which is hidden in the earth, deep in the earth. So it gets more into that a little bit, but it's more about Henry being an adult. And I might have him be like a probably can't make him be a detective now because I've kind of blown that, but I might have him be like a private eye or something where he uses his telepathy to kind of as part of what he does. But anyway, that's something that I'm toying with. I really want to write it. And if frankly, if Skyhorse hadn't bombed this book, I probably would be more it'd probably be more closer to something I'd be writing sooner than later. But I'm going to wait and see how if Child picks up Steam after some of the other releases come out, I might go back and do a sequel. We'll see. But it won't be with Skyhorse.
Henry has not lost his telepathic powers. Then my sense was when he had when his father's kind of spirit who's present with him, that his father's really kind of powering that, and his father eventually just can't hang on anymore, and he's gone. Yeah, but so he still does have powers. Then I was a little confused about that because he's got this connection with Mother, but I don't know if it's like telepathic.
I took it like Mother gave him his powers back.
Yeah, but it also kind of sounded like she took it away.
No, so
or slammed the door.
Yeah, I was trying to find my J.B. Ryan book. So, which is here on my shelf somewhere. But so yes, so no, Henry lost his. So yes, Greg, you nailed it. So the idea is that Henry's dad spirit, and in one of the chapters early in the book, I reference Henry being infused with this kind of like foreign element when he's in the hospital. And so the idea is that Henry's dad is basically attached to him, and that's what's giving him this ability, and that's why he can communicate with his dad. And then when his dad leaves, and this is actually rooted in, I won't say science, it's rooted in
parapsychology.
Thank you, parapsychology. This element of the spirit being attached to a living spirit gives that living spirit certain abilities. So this isn't something I just made up out of the ether. It actually has been studied. So, but when the dad leaves, it takes Henry's abilities, and then Mitch. So Mother basically reboots the engine when she sticks her finger in Henry's forehead, and that's why. So Henry still has his powers at the end.
Gotcha.
Is he strong?
Yeah, but it's basically a different kind of set of powers. But it's basically he's now because the whole point is her one of Mother's character aspects is that she has inherent telepathy, which is why he communicates with her. So as part of her makeup, so that's why she basically gifts Henry with her abilities, and that's kind of why at the end he can see her and stuff like that, or she's there, but why he sees the colors. That's the last line of the book where I say he sees Mother and he's blinded by the colors, or however I say it. Is me telling you he has a kind of a different set of powers now that he got from this creature.
More powerful?
Maybe.
We'll find out in the sequel.
Maybe.
The book is so specifically with the colors. There's so much wonderful visuals that are, the visuals that are described textually are so rich. It just really seems like it's being set up for a film adaptation. Was that at all part of your thinking? I'm sure, like, if you got an option to make any of your books into a film, hey, that's great news. It's money, right? And possibly a film production. But specifically, that element just makes it so rich for visuals. Was that part of the thinking, or did that potential have any impact on how you wrote the story?
No, I mean, I'm always twofold answer. I'm definitely always thinking. Well, I definitely would love the book to be adapted into a film. I wasn't thinking about it when I was writing it, but the colors had nothing to do with me being like, this would be a cool visual for movies. No, I wasn't thinking about that at all when I was writing it. I don't even know if they would utilize that, frankly, if they were to do a film adaptation. Interestingly, the book is currently making the rounds and is getting a lot of really strong feedback. So fingers
Nice.
crossed in the early 2023 we get some bites, because we're getting a lot of interest right now. Ghost House Pictures is reading it, and some studios and stuff like that. So so I'm hoping it gets picked up, because I haven't had anything made, yet, obviously. So I've had a lot of things optioned, but nothing made. So like, I'll tell you guys this, it's the first one I've had that's moving into that kind of next stage. So that's exciting.
Like, is it greenlit? Is that what that is?
No. No. So there's there's option, and then there's like all this other stuff where they attach directors, attach writers, attach this and that. And then there's like, sort of like a progression where they're like, okay, we have everything in place. We're moving forward with developing it, which means we're writing a script. We're looking at actors and all that kind of, and that's the stage where they're at now. Greenlit means we have a cast, we have a script, we have a budget, we're ready to start filming, and now it's greenlit. Ronald Malfi actually talked a lot about this in my episode with him and The Dark Word, where he got with like Amazon and a couple other people, he got all the way through that. He's like, I was hiring the writing room. Like we were that, like we had a cast. We had and they hadn't actually been technically greenlit, and then the pandemic hit and everything got shelved. Listen to my Dark Word episode with Ronald Malfi.
Yeah.
You guys will find it really fascinating.
Yeah,
he talks about. He's Ron's very open about this stuff. He doesn't give a shit. He was very open about it, and it was really, even for me, it was really fascinating because how far along it got, and then got pulled back. So for me, it's like options are great, but really it's that purchase price. So, but the purchase price only gets enacted when it's pretty much greenlit. So, but yeah, and Boys in the Valley is being developed right now. Story I wrote called My Father's Ashes is being developed by Sixth and Idaho. That was announced.
My best friend, my friend.
That's my old friend is. Yeah. So I wrote a screenplay. I wrote a version of the screenplay for that, and now they're taking it to other writers to see if they can find the director's vision better, which is fine. So so there's the adaptation thing is great because it allows me to keep writing, because the publishing money is not quite as good as the movie money. But interestingly, Gothic was a screenplay that I adapted into a novel. Boys in the Valley was a screenplay that I adapted into a novel. Child Alone Strangers was actually an original novel. So I never, of the three, Child's the only one that wasn't a screenplay first.
Do you just a guess, just a hunch here, if it were to be adapted to film, do you think it would keep the balance of kind of thriller, police procedural to horror, or do you think it's more likely to be stronger in one than the other? Because to me, like, so much of the strength of The Child Alone is that it's such a good balance of the two. And I think there aren't a whole lot of films that kind of balance two different genres. I think about The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which is a demon possession movie, but really it's a legal procedural. It's a courtroom drama, and they do a really good job balancing both of those. And the novel strikes such a great balance. Do you think it's just like in its nature it'd have to keep that, or is it more likely to balance one way or the other?
It kind of depends. It kind of depends what they adapt it for. So if they make it a feature, I would think that they would have to really condense a lot of that stuff. If they make it here's the other thing. Series, like limited series, like Flanagan's stuff is becoming less of the norm, because streamers want, so like HBO, for example, they don't want a one season series, because what happens is people buy HBO for 6 months, they binge it, and then they stop watching HBO, they cancel their membership or whatever. So they want at least 2 or 3 seasons. I'm learning this through my Boys in the Valley. What's going on with Boys in the Valley right now?
Mm.
So, and I'm like, there is no second season. of Boys in the Valley.
Right.
Yeah. What do you?
But whatever. They're bouncing around ideas. So I think if it was a feature, I think it'd be this. I think it would have elements of both, but I think it'd be much more condensed. I would love to see it as, like a 6-part, miniseries. But I think there's too much there for a feature. I think so much would have to be truncated that it would hurt the story. I think you could easily get 6 episodes out of that book.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's a second season, right? So that's why I don't know. But
Well, yeah, you'd have to jump to
These
Adult
are like
Henry.
4
That-
hours
that
long
could be
again.
your second season.
So I don't know, but we'll see. I mean, right now there's no nothing signed, it's all just being, it literally just got sent out a week ago. So it's being circulated right now, but we're getting some good responses. So hopefully somebody's interested enough to option it. Alter's about to get optioned, by the way.
That would be so sick.
For those, Alter, which is a short story in Behold the Void, which I'm really surprised about.
And you have season 2 if you need it with Fate of Nero.
With Fate of Nero, right?
I don't know how that show would be.
Yeah, I think they're thinking of it as a feature. So
Nice.
and
That'd be awesome.
the director has done another movie that I really loved, so I was very happy. So yeah, so that could be interesting.
I'm usually
that'd be
thrilled.
sick.
I'm usually thrilled for the author when anything's made into a movie. Obviously, money, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yes. But I have a bad feeling if they made Child Alone with Strangers a feature film, it would be, boom, Henry's abducted, goes right to the farmhouse, and
Right.
then chaos ensues, and it would be nothing but jump scares, and it wouldn't have what makes the book. It would lose its heart. But if they did a really intelligent, like Vince Gilligan, if he was involved with a series, you could get, you could have an episode for Pedro, an episode, like you would get their backstories, and that when they have those nightmares, wow, you'd understand.
I mean, yeah, maybe it could be 2 seasons. I mean,
I think you could get 2 seasons.
if you
out.
thought of it that way, if you really took your time with it, and if you were to end, say, on there's a moment in the book where Mother reveals herself, and where they see her scuttering around the house, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that could sort of be the end of season 1 if
Yeah.
you were to do it that way. I
That
could
would
see
be
it.
awesome.
Yeah, that would be so cool, because you're like, by that point the viewer would be, this is horrible, this kid went through hell and he's recovering and he's getting these powers, and that's cool, and that could be a whole thing. And then this badass crew, what they're doing, you can't even go into their backstory. Jim Cady in the service, you can get so much of that. And then when the viewer thinks, wow, they got him to the farmhouse, now it's going to be an abduction, and then you see this thing scuttle, it's like, oh, it's going to be actually much wilder than that. Wow, that would
because I think that's an interesting reveal, because that's
You're
the
not
first
expecting
moment, and I did that very purposely, where I was like, I'm gonna let them see her.
Yeah.
That was really
and
cool.
and that was kind of a fun moment for me, because I was like, I want to see what they do when they actually see her like spidering around this house and then leaping into the woods, and like I want those reactions. So yeah, that would be a lot of fun, and I could see that being a nice like season 1 ender. Then I'll tell you a scene that I really want to see on screen, which may not be a scene that you would jump to mind right away, but I love the scene personally as a writer. I loved the scene between Sally and Jim at the school when Sally's interrogating him.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Jim's still playing dumb. That scene I think could be really interesting. I love the like Quentin Tarantino sort of like slow burn of it.
Yeah.
And that's a scene I would love to see on film. Yeah, I think that would be really tense. That could be like a 10-minute you know, just like Mindhunter did really great stuff with that. If you saw Mindhunter, with they were interrogating the serial killer, and nothing really happened, but it was so intense. It was so tense because you
weird stuff.
You didn't know what
stuff happened.
Yeah, because you didn't know what the guy was going to do. You didn't know what.
Tell you.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Hopefully, I would love for it to get it adapted. I would love it. I don't want to write the screenplay, but I would love for it to get adapted. Yeah.
Do you think Alter is your most popular story?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, pretty much hands down. It's also my most controversial story. It's the story I get the most angry messages about, but it's easily the most popular story. So when I wrote Mother, so my first publication was Mother, and Mother did well. It had a Laird Barron blurb, it had a Paul Tremblay blurb, and it did well. And it kind of got me on the map. And when I published Alter, things went batshit. Things went crazy. Like I noticeably went through the roof. That became kind of a big hit. And then when and still to this day, people mention it all the time to me. It's one of those things. It's a bit of a taboo story. So. You know, there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of negativity that I get feedback for that story, but I also get so much positivity, and I know it is what it is. It's a very hard, you know, it's one of those stories where, and I've talked about this in before, where I kind of like, you know, when you like have the barrel and you tap the barrel, right? Like in a wine or a beer, and you kind of like open it up and you let it go. So I feel like I kind of tapped readers' imaginations with that story, and then I kind of just like let it go, because I've gotten emails and messages and reviews, which you can read on Goodreads or whatever, where people are like, I can't believe you wrote this about this girl being sexually assaulted in such graphic detail. It's sick. You're an animal, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I didn't write any of the above. Like it's literally hinted at. It's all off screen. But their imaginations are so vivid that they blame me for what they're imagining. And it's been an interesting, you know, sociological slash psychological study to get a lot of those things where I'm like, I never said any of that. There was a sound, and then I had her walking with like some blood, you know, blood on her, but I never described anything that happened. So like, if you're upset, that's on you. They're like, you should have a trigger warnings for rape, and I'm like, why? I don't show a rape in that story. So anyway, so I wouldn't be very interested to see how this gentleman does Alter. I'm really hoping I haven't as excited as about the Universal and the J.J. Abrams and all that kind of stuff. I'm really excited about this. I'm hoping it works out. So I would love to see what this guy could do with it.
That would be sick. Yeah, I feel like Alter is one of your like I don't know how to word this correctly, but like your deepest metaphorically stories, like metaphor, you know, for
but the loss of innocence, and people don't like that. People don't like the kid getting slapped in the pool. They don't like the girl getting assaulted in the bathroom. They don't like it because I spend 20 pages rooting them emotionally into this scene.
Yeah.
And then I do stuff that's horrible. And they're like, whoa. I'm like, I'm stuck in this scene. I'm stuck in this story, and now you're doing this stuff, and it's affecting me in a very real way. And and people get upset. They get genuinely angry.
You want to make them stop hitting the kid.
Right. And it is interesting, right? Like how angry people get at writers. It's like, you know, my job is to expose you to situations that create psychological and emotional responses. So if you don't want that in your fiction, then you probably shouldn't be reading fiction. You should probably be
Oh,
reading not horror, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, Philip, I'll relate this story. Alter
Please.
really, I don't get scared. I'm kind of like Jeff. I don't get scared by horror books a lot. I'm looking for that one horror book that's really going to scare me. So I was reading Alter, and I had a thing when I was a kid at the city pool where I would swim to the bottom of the pool and I would find the drain, and I would kind of stick my finger in it, but then I'd think to myself, what if my finger got caught in there? And then I'm down here drowning. And anyways, Alter brought all that back up from my little kid self to my adult self, and it made me sweat because I used to scare myself that way. I used to go down there and I just, am I going to put my finger in here? Am I going to get stuck?
I can't tell you how happy that makes me. You know,
Yeah, it really did.
There's a scene in Alter where the kid is on a green frog, and it's a lesser. It's a harder scene to remember because there's nothing directly. It doesn't directly affect the story, but he talks about how he fell off and he was bleeding, and he was looking at I'm sorry, green turtle, and the turtle was looking. So that's a memory that's a memory of mine that I inserted into the story. So that's why it's there. But yeah, and you know what? And sorry, then we'll get back to child. But like, so when I was a little kid, I remember there was one day I was like in fifth grade, fourth grade, and I had to go deliver, I don't know what it was, something to the high school, and which was across the thing. It was like a different building. And so I went across to the high school and I had this thing I had to deliver. And these two kids stopped me. And they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm got to take this to the office or whatever. And I had barely gotten out that sentence when one of these high school kids slapped me across the face, like hard. And I remember like the shock of that. And I'd never been hit before. I was like 13, 14. And I put that into this book because, and I've also had gone through, I've also had like a sexual assault thing happen to me. And so these are things that I put into that story because they are things that cost me chunks of my innocence. And when people talk about me being gratuitous about it, or putting this stuff in the story because I want to like create a shock, and it's like, no, the story is about loss of innocence, and these are things that actually happened to me that I'm putting into the work because it's important to me. And I think it's also an incredibly interesting subject to talk about when you first start losing those ideas of everything is great and everyone loves me and everyone is kind. And so when I get a lot of those angry responses, I know where they're coming from. They're coming from people who don't like me dredging that shit up. But the reality is that's stuff that all happened to me. And not that I didn't get sucked into a pool.
Not yet.
But I did go to a pool, community pool. And I spent a lot of time in a community pool. And that was sort of like that moment that I remember that being a place of pure innocence, a place where it was like nothing but childhood joy. And I wanted to take that childhood joy play set and fucking smash it and say, no, this is reality. And not to be a downer, but to say like, this is reality. And this is important because people evolve. And that's really why I wrote that story. And it was not an easy story for me to write. And and a lot of people really get mad at me about it, but a lot of people really, really love it, too. So,
yeah, it's an amazing story.
I haven't heard anything from Jason about child. I want to hear something. I want to hear a question from Jason.
No pressure, Jason.
Hey, stranger.
Steven, I honestly don't care if you ask anything this entire session.
Yeah, I'm just along for the ride because the book itself was quite the ride, and I've never done one of these, so I'm just excited just to be part of it.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it too. And I'm hoping, by the way, you guys, everyone involved, I loved hearing your geological locations, because I'm really hoping that with Boys in the Valley, not Gothic, but with Boys in the Valley next summer, I'm planning on traveling through West Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina. Like, I really want to hit some regions where a lot of my readers are, and a lot of the bookstores are very supportive of my work. So hopefully next summer some of us get to meet in person.
Come to Parnassus in Nashville, and Greg will be there, and I'll go there.
No,
Parnassus bookstore.
but no, seriously, what is because will you send me the their website, Jeff?
Sure. Yeah.
Because I'm not kidding. I'm actually working with Nightfire now to develop the places I want to go next summer. So I would love to come to Nashville. I would love to come to Nashville. I'm going to be in Kentucky for sure. I'm going to be in because I'm going to go see Chance at Bowling Green, and I'm going to go to Libby Place in Virginia. So if there's some place in who Mike was from West Virginia, right? Who just left, who got bounced.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to find a place in West Virginia to go to as well. I want to get in like a little like a motorhome, you know, and like just drive around and see some people. And
that'd be awesome. You know, because when I went and saw Robert McCammon at it's funny, a connection you have with Robert McCammon, not just in the stories with the listener and child, but when he was talking, he gave a talk at his book signing recently, and he talked about an editor. And man, he said some of the same things you're saying. Like, he had this editor, he went in there and he was bringing Speaks the Nightbird, which is like a historical set in colonial America. And it basically is like a really cool horror detective sort of timepiece.
Not yet.
Yeah. And
what, Stephen? What'd you say? What did Stephen say?
It's not horror yet.
Oh, no, it's not horror.
No. There's a witch. But anyway, he goes to the editor, and he's like, "Oh, it's set in colonial America." And she goes, "Yeah, I just have a couple of notes for you." She goes, "I don't think religion was as big a deal in colonial America as you're making it out to be." And he's like, that was the first red flag. And then the second one was,
where was it? Where did he say where the editor was from? What publisher?
Viking. Viking. Really? He goes, and this was like what, 2002, 2001? I don't know.
Oh, was that long ago? Wow. Yeah, I guess
he was like, he walked into there, and it was like New York, and he's like the great, one of the big, they had King, and so he was like, oh, thrilled to be there. And then he meets this editor who doesn't know that colonial America had a lot of religion. And then she pointed to a word in the book. She goes, "What's this word?" He's like, "Leviathan?" She's like, "Yeah, what does that mean?"
Oh,
and he's like, "What?" Like,
and a Viking editor?
A Viking editor. But I think it was a situation where it was like a new person, and like they just pawned him off.
It's Robert McCammon. Like, why would it be a new person? Like, come on.
Well, he'd gone quiet for a long time, and I would think that he'd command a lot more attention than that. But he's like, here's this editor who is down the street from like a huge, wonderful New York City library, can look up this word, but waited for me. Like, in other words, he walked out of there. He didn't go with Viking. He said, "No, I'm taking my book." And he went to River City. And it was like, not nearly as supported as
I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, but he left.
I appreciate he probably didn't need to. I would not have left Viking, but
it's just shocking to me.
So I'll tell you the thing with editors. So the thing with editors is that you need an editor the editor is the voice for your book at the publisher. So you need them to be 120% on board, because if you don't have somebody in-house fighting for your book, meaning fighting with the sales team, not fighting, but fighting for you with the sales team, with the publicity team, with the people who are creating the graphics. They're your only proponent in that world. So if your editor, and this is another dark word plug, but it's amazing how many writers I've spoken with, and I've learned this over the last year, have moved publishers because their editors have moved publishers.
Yeah.
And because it's so important, such an important relationship. So and there's different, also, so you guys know, there's different things. So there's a proofreader, and then there's like the editor. So they're different. So the person who's reading your stuff and saying, and the proofreader is no small thing. It's not like, oh, you misspelled this. It's like
continuity errors,
we're in the wrong
continuity, or this didn't exist at this time. They're basically looking for any errors. And your editor is basically just like saying, they're helping you develop your story, and then they're basically shepherding your book through the whole process. So if your editor is not 100% on board, it's a bad situation. So you really want your editor to be, because they're the only ones who are fighting for you in-house, So so with McCammon, I mean, that's scary. But if I would never I would never have loved Viking. I would kill to be with Viking. I love Nightfire. I'm not gonna say anything bad about Nightfire, but I would love to be with like Del Rey, who, there's an editor named Trisha Narwani who is Josh Malerman's editor. She's also Chuck Wendig's editor, Del Rey. Like, I would love to work with her, but my Nightfire folks have been great. My Orbit guys have been amazing. Orbit UK. But yeah, it's a situation it's a process that I'm currently learning about, having never been published by a Big Five press before. But yeah, dude, if I had somebody saying to me, like, what does the word Leviathan mean? That'd be a problem.
You know what's funny? He said after that meeting, and after he got the Speaks the Nightbird published, he put Leviathan in, the word Leviathan is in every Matthew Corbett book. And then the final book in the series is titled Leviathan. And
that's hilarious.
For what he's saying, that was 100% spite. Like, and probably a little bit of author.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
He's I would love to meet him. I think when I was talking to the Cemetery Dance guys about Robert, I think they called him like Rick. Is that what he goes?
Yeah,
Rick, right? But I would love to meet McCammon one day and pick his brain, man. That would be amazing. I asked him to blurb Gothic. I don't think it's going to happen, but Gothic did get sent to Stephen King, though.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, I Robert McCammon struck me as a much more like serious, like very, very territorial over his stuff. Like he said, he didn't tell. He was like you. He was talking about. He was like, oh, we're just in this room. He got a couple of projects in the pipe works to be produced. He's like
the pipe works, Jeff.
The pipe. I don't know. We're in the work.
Yeah.
Pipeline?
Yeah.
I'm in the pool. I'm in the community pool. What do you want? But he said he had stuff in the works.
My wife just handed me the whole bottle. She's like, I'm sick of running up and down this.
Pass it over here.
Yeah, please.
And wouldn't that be nice? If we could.
And he said he's not excited anymore about it because it's like development hell. But he's like,
about what? What specifically?
Well, he didn't tell us, but then I saw somebody, I think Hunter shared this on social media. They're doing Stinger. They might do Stinger, which is the one I didn't like. But
Stinger was my first McCammon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
have you read it?
That's the only time he's not territorial.
Who's read Stinger? Jeff, have you read it?
I didn't finish it actually.
Oh,
I read.
Oh no!
I read Swan Song, Wolf's Hour, and something else, and then I read Stinger, and I was like, I just.
Oh no! The thing was Stinger. I hear what you're saying, but Stinger's.
It's great.
appreciated the pulp. I appreciated the pulpy nature of it, and also it's a community horror, which I thought was interesting. I think that's why it's adaptable, because it's you know, all the weird shit where like it's underground and it's going to all the different homes and different people are becoming. It's sort of like it reminded me a little bit of Under the Dome, as it affected the community. Man, speaking of Under the Dome, I don't want to sidebar us
any further, right?
We are way sidebarred at this point.
They could have done legit like an adaptation of Under the Dome that would have been horror instead of whatever it was. CBS.
I didn't watch it.
Mike's back. Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Jeff,
Steven's
Jeff,
got
you're
something to say,
wrong.
it looks like.
Stinger's a masterpiece.
I'll reread it. I'll reread it. I mean,
it's not a masterpiece. That's not true. It has
It's good.
it has its place.
Yeah,
Like, did you read The Border, Stephen?
I did.
That was
I read all
that
of
was
them.
really good. I could see that being adapted
Yeah.
for sure, because it's aliens and apocalypse and all. But I love the Matthew Corman. Is that right? Matthew Corbett. Sorry, Corbett. The Matthew Corbett. I love the Matthew Corbett stuff. Did you read The Queen of Bedlam yet, Jeff?
no, I read
Oh,
Speak
that
Tonight
one
Bird.
is so
That's
good. It's so good.
Beast Number. It's great. It's great. It's great. Who's read McCammon? Greg or Randy? Have you guys read?
Nope.
I have not. I've got
Know his name. I've heard his name a
Swan
lot, but
Song.
haven't read
Is that
it.
You
is
should-
that a
well,
best
read-
one?
Read Swan Song.
Yeah, that's what I've got on my list.
awesome.
It's great. And Boy's Life.
Wolf Hour is my favorite.
Oh, really?
Wolf Hour is Swan Song. I read. I adored it. Wolf
I love
Hour.
Swan Song. But Wolf
Oh,
Hour.
I just got a.
You like it, Jeff, or you did like it?
I loved it.
Oh, you
Wolf
loved it.
Hour?
Okay. There's a sequel too. I have both.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hunter from the Woods.
From the Woods.
Hunter from the Woods. Yeah. But the Corey books are a totally different thing. And to get things back to me, which is why we're here. Let's talk about A1 for a second. Is no, I'm kidding. The Gothic in Gothic,
No,
my Tyson character in Gothic does have some McCammon elements.
Yeah.
The historical fiction thing that he argues with about is very much based on the Matthew Corbett McCammon books.
Yeah,
So.
I was just struck with. I don't know what I was expecting, but
Oh, did Emilian leave?
Yeah, he had to leave.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm not watching the chat. I just saw something pop up.
yeah, no, I don't know why I was just so struck with how passionate and serious he was. Like
About which
don't
one?
know,
Sorry?
Pastor?
McCammon,
About Speaks of Nightbird?
about his work in general, and
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was reading from Speaks of Nightbird, and Nightbird. He was crying, like he was choked up.
Yeah, I remember you said that. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, I'll be honest with you guys. I choked up reading at Artifacts this past weekend. I think you get very attached to the characters, and you know the thing I think with writers is, you know, when you write a scene, you're drawing so much emotion out of yourself. You know, when you're writing an emotional scene, for example, and you're drawing on your own resources in a way, like you're pretending that it's happening to you, and that's the only way to make it read well. So I think when you have to read that aloud, it brings back that sort of tugging feeling, you know, that you felt when you were writing it. So I would, once again, why I hate reading my own work in public, but it's definitely, I get it 100%. Like stuff that doesn't even seem that it's worth that kind of emotional response garners it from the writer, because you draw on you're drawing on stuff that to write that scene in the first place. And when you read it, you're reliving what you drew on. And I've choked up a lot. I mean, emotional guy anyway, but I've choked up reading stuff where it doesn't seem that emotional, but you're reminding yourself of what you drew on when you first wrote it. So I could see why he maybe got emotional, but for a veteran like him, I would love to meet him. He seems like such a fascinating guy.
He is.
And he's such a brilliant writer. Yeah, just a brilliant writer. So let's talk about Child. What else?
The reason we're here.
Tell me this.
I don't care about talking about me. I just want to make sure that you guys are getting like your questions answered. Like,
I did have one more question.
Who's all even here?
Did you mean for Mary and Dave to be mom and dad? The M and D stand for that? Was that intentional?
No.
Because I just thought it was neat.
But it brings up an interesting point. So when I was at Artifacts, I'm bringing this up again. By the way, Artifacts, you guys, get on their mailing list, support that store. This guy, Greg Mullins, owns it. He's a Fracassi freak. Oh, cool. He owns it. He's like this Long Beach. He's like this brick wall of a man. And he's covered from head to toe in tats. And he's a Long Beach gangster who opened a bookstore in Encinitas.
Wow.
Has been like stabbed and paralyzed and fought through cancer and a warrior and just this beautiful person, amazing guy. And he owns this little bookstore and he just loves books. He loves collecting books. He carries Subterranean. He carries Centipede. He carries all my stuff. And so follow Artifacts, Encinitas. He's just like this wonderful human being. But and now I totally forgot what I was even going to talk about. But
you're talking about crime.
Mom and
dad. We were talking about.
He said to me, so okay, right. But yes, so follow that. But he said to me, he goes, "Yeah, my wife was really weirded out about your book." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Because I'm Greg and she's Jen."
Oh no!
Oh, that's funny.
That's awesome.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, "Well, you're not brother or sister, right?" He's like, "Well, no." Like, well, then what are you worried about?
I will have to say. Oh, sorry. Go, Greg.
I was just gonna say this is a huge book, and there's always the question about, are you a plotter or a pantser? Did you my deal, my work this weekend? Those are the note cards for the screenplay I'm writing. I'm clearly a plotter there. I don't really know if. I'm sure that if you're a pantser, plotting out your work is probably more harmful than good. But when it's a work as long as this, and I don't remember if you're a pantser or a plotter. I don't know if you've addressed that or not. But something that's this long, I know you had to research things like how the procedural stuff for what they do when you have a kidnap situation. But when it's with this much detail and this much happening. How much did you plot this out before you really started doing a draft?
Yeah. So I plot out all my novels. I'm a huge plotter. It's something I learned from my screenwriting days. So I massively plot out my novels. I have every chapter is broken down. I use Scrivener. So I break down every chapter through Scrivener. I have notes in every single chapter, or not the chapters that justify having notes before I begin writing the actual prose. So even with Boys in the Valley, which was originally a screenplay, I still reworked the entire story in Scrivener as an outline because I knew it would be a different beast as a novel. So no, I'm a huge outliner when it comes to novels. With short stories, I do not outline. I have the acorn idea. I have the ending in mind, and then that's really it. So I know where I'm going. I have an idea of what the nut of the story, but I don't outline it or anything like that. I just write it. Novellas, same. but novels definitely like disturbingly outlined. Like I'm very and that's to say when I'm writing the book, if a character goes left when I want them to go right, I will I'll make adjustments to the story, but then I just go back to my Scrivener outline and I say, okay, well now this is different, so I need to kind of change all these things versus like just trying to imagine. I don't get how writers write novels that way. I honestly don't. Yeah. I don't know why you would ever do that because, and I'm not. I get it. I'm bashing because I know like Catriona Ward wrote Last House on Needle Street that way. She didn't outline it at all. She wrote it all from the seat of her pants, which is unbelievable because that book is so complex. I would have had that thing outlined to death. But it's beautiful. It's perfect. So, but I do think like the big knock on King is his endings. And I think, the reason his endings suck is because he doesn't outline them and he doesn't know where he's going. And I think like Fairy Tale suffered from that. I think he didn't, he kind of like tries to play catch up a little bit. And it's like, oh, I need to throw in a line about the gold here in the last 5 pages because that was the whole impetus for why this guy came to this, whatever. But and then there's stories. So for but then to even go that one step further, when I wrote the novels that haven't been released yet, Observe and Blue Butterfly. Observe is such a complicated novel. So for Randy and you guys who might not know, Observe is a book about it's a time travel thriller, and it's incredibly complex and it's very hard science. And I had to really lay out every moment of that book before I wrote it because I wanted it to be a solid construction of story. Blue Butterfly, which is another kind of like more of a supernatural time travel, more fantastical, but that's a murder mystery. So there's things where I'm seeding hints, where I'm misleading readers. Thank you. Steven's got a copy of the arc. Yeah, as does Mitch. As does Jeff. You're just upsetting everybody else in the room. But where it was such a complex story that I really wanted to make sure that I knew exactly where not only just where I was going, but also like I just didn't want to I didn't want it to be like I didn't want to just like randomly misdirect readers or drop plot points. I wanted it to be a construction, you know what I mean? So, and then like, so that I could, when I was playing with things throughout, I knew this was the construct. And I'm kind of unusual in that way. I don't think a lot of writers work that way. I was talking to, I write my screenplays that way, but I was talking to another writer, Todd Scott, wonderful writer with the Book of the Flock. And he was like, I'm a total pantser and blah, blah, blah. So I think I'm not necessarily the norm, but I'd like to see the whole book. And then when I'm writing it, I'm not worrying about like what happens next. What is this character going to do? Where am I going to go with the story? I just want to be like, I know exactly where I'm going. I know exactly what every character is going to do. That way I can kind of like really play around with the reader's mind in a positive way when I'm writing it. And also I like to focus on the prose. I like to focus on the dialogue. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be, when I'm writing a scene, I don't want to be worried about, gee, I wonder what's going to happen next. I want to be very focused on the actual writing, the character development, all that kind of stuff. So that's why I outline. Yeah.
Do you think that your background as a screenwriter makes you more inclined to be a plotter? Is that just more of a necessary aspect of screenwriting?
It's a necessary aspect of screenwriting, but I also think it's just my MO. I just think it's just the way I think.
Yeah, I don't think Josh Malerman plots anything.
No, he doesn't plot anything. And I'll say this with the utmost humility. But when I see a story, when I see a novel, I can see the entire novel in my head. So I don't know. It's just that. So when I'm making tweaks and stuff throughout, I know I can see the other switches being flipped, here, here, and here that's affecting in the story. And it's also like, and I'll say this too. I just wrote a screenplay based on one of my short stories, and I was talking to the director and the producer, more the director. He was like, well, I think we should have this one big character twist. And it was like in the third act. And I said, and then at the risk of sounding artistic, I was like, this is a piece of music. And you're inserting like punk rock, in what is a operatic piece or whatever. Like there's a flow to it. And there's a culmination of story that I've thought of that makes the whole piece work. And you can't just pull one thing out and put another thing in and expect the rest of it to fall in line. All these other, now I need to make all these other changes so that this new piece works. And that's what a lot of, I think, non-writers don't understand. And it's easier in screenwriting because you can play around with that more, and it's not as hard to rewrite 20 pages of screenplay as it is to rewrite 20 pages of prose, obviously. But so that's one of the reasons I outline. I see a book as being one piece of music, and I don't mess around with it. During the process, something may change. A character may take me in a direction I wasn't foreseeing, and that's fine. And it's actually welcome, but it does affect the overall piece. So I just want to make sure that everything's really balanced and that everybody is in their place and that motivations are correct and personalities aren't being twisted. And so that's like, I don't know, that's just a glimpse into how I guess how I do.
That really showed in Child. It really did. It's appreciated by me, the reader.
Child was interesting because I wrote the first 30,000 words of Child for my first agent, and my first agent was like, I think we should lose all the supernatural stuff and just make it like a crime procedural. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And then they were like, well, I think we should cut out all this stuff and make it like a 75,000 word story, more in line with like the Mountain Goats guy. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Which guy?
John Darnielle or whatever. Darnielle.
So he's like, I really want it to be like more like a John Darnielle piece. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not what I'm going for. And it was hard to, and we fought a lot, and I ended up firing him because of this book, because he wanted me to do things with this book that I was not. And this is my first agent I've ever gotten. This is my first book genre book I've ever written. But I was like, no, I'm not only am I not doing that, but I think you and I need to part ways. And so that was how important it was to me that that Child be what it was, what I had envisioned. So it's hard to make those decisions because you don't want to lose representation, or like Robert McCammon walking away from Viking, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do because you know what you are building and you don't really want it to be messed with, because it's just, there's no point.
What's the point? Yeah.
There's no point. Exactly. There's no point.
What did your agent understand? Did your agent at least understand your perspective and share it at all?
An asshole. No, he was an asshole. I fired him. No, he didn't. He was a dick, and he was actually super abusive to me in emails. And so I fired him. No, I'm my third agent right now. She's amazing. I've been with her for 3 years, and she's a big fighter for me and big supporter of mine. So everything works out. The agent thing is weird, but that's a different discussion.
How do you feel about early response on A Child Alone? Because like I'm seeing a lot of tweets in particular about it and Instagram posts. It seems like at least people who've read it seem very vocal about how much they love it.
Yeah. So I was talking to an author yesterday, an author friend, a very well-to-do author friend, and he was like, and I was talking to him about it, and he was like, man, it's exactly what you said. He's like, the response has been amazing. And I said, yeah. I said, unfortunately, the publisher didn't do anything to promote the book. They didn't get any early blurbs. They didn't get any early reviews. They didn't send it to Publishers Weekly. They didn't send it to Book List. They didn't send it to Library Journal. So nobody really knows the book's out there. And that was a shame. So the positive reviews are great. I love it. I makes me very happy. Obviously, it's somewhat bittersweet because I feel like if the book had been promoted, it would be making a bigger splash. More readers would be finding it. So I'm very happy that people like it. But I wish that more people were reading it. Cemetery Dance is putting out my book in February. And they have been unbelievable. Like they have done more. They have done more.
I'm getting sick.
As an
promotions. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. Well, no, but right. But that's the thing. Is like, as they have done more as basically a two-man operation, Dan and Kevin, to promote Gothic than Skyhorse, which is an entire corporation with departments and shit, who didn't even make arcs for the book. Did. So this is less about bashing Skyhorse and more about praising Cemetery Dance. I'm very curious to see what happens with Nightfire and Orbit with Boys in the Valley and Brothers, which is July 2023 and June 2024. So we'll see how they do. So we'll see. Cool. But CD has been amazing.
Yeah, and what I like is they keep posting every time they post a great take on the book or a great review of the book. A lot of publishers keep they'll post the same goddamn review, and like they keep trotting it out. But this is always a new one.
Oh yeah,
and it's a new opportunity. I think that's really smart because you're like, oh, someone else is saying. They could just show 5 different reviews, but because you were hit 5 different times with that, it's cool,
Yeah, and I don't mind them blitzing social media. Like Skyhorse didn't tweet once, literally never tweeted about my book. And I'm not here to sell grapes, but I'm just saying, yes, Cemetery Dance has been great, and the reason I mention it is because it's important for me as a writer, and when I talk to other writers, to say just how hard Cemetery Dance is working to promote Gothic, especially when you compare it to a larger publisher who does absolutely nothing. But even aside from that, the passion that they have for the book, the belief they have in the book, and for me has been, I put it this way. The money part of the business is vastly different when working with a big 5. But I would work with Cemetery Dance again just because they care about the book and they believe in the book. That's how important it is to a writer, Yeah.
Wow.
Maybe Child Alone will catch it. Maybe Child Alone will, who knows? Maybe word of mouth will spread. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a harsh thing because you want that very new, like the very first reveal is when you get the most sort of attention and momentum. And if they don't capitalize on that,
Yeah, you have you have 3 months basically. Once the book is out, you have 3 months, and that's
Wow.
and if you don't I don't mean to get businessy, but if you don't capitalize on a book in 3 months, that's your window. So you want the pre stuff to hit, and then but you know what, the model's changing, and I feel in some ways, without overstepping my influence, but I do feel like I found models that are working that most writers haven't discovered yet. Like doing Earthling for Gothic and then Cemetery Dance has been a very lucrative, interesting model. We'll see how it all turns out, but there are different ways to do it. There are different, but ultimately, you hope that the bigger presses come through and they promote the book.
Yeah, and there are opportunities, obviously, with social media that, you know, there are books that go viral. You know, these are on Book Talk and all that. They do catch fire sometimes when you're like, oh, nobody was paying attention to this book, and then all of a sudden the right person shared it, got enough people intrigued, and now it's back on the bestseller list or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what happened with Skyhorse, why I mean, it seems like it would be in their best interest to like really promote it and make money off of it, but what was wrong?
We won't talk about Skyhorse anymore.
Okay.
I mean, I can edit this out if we need me to.
He's just hungry for it. There's gonna be like 5 minutes of this video that gets
it's fine. It's fine. But no, yeah, but they look, they made a beautiful book.
The book is
and it's
amazing.
well made.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
they
cover is
provided
awesome.
a cover even.
Yeah.
The cover is awesome. I loved it the
You have
first
a
time I saw
cover
the
even.
cover.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize how brilliant it was until I read the story with the colors. And
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking, oh, that cover is even better now.
Yeah. So I was able to like suggest to them what I wanted, and I gave them the idea of like doing obviously a lot of colors, because the designer doesn't read the book, so you have to kind of explain to them what you might like. And what Christy Nogle, what she came up with was very cool. And actually in the Fracassi Freaks group, I think I posted like 2 variations, right?
Right.
And you guys kind of voted on it, which was really interesting. So no, I'm super happy with what she came up with, and I did have a strong degree of input to it, which is great. I don't, that's not normally something you get with like a bigger publisher, so I was able to kind of make suggestions as to what I liked and didn't like, but it was cool having feedback too from like some of the Fracassi group fans. That was actually really helpful. So
I'd like to go way back and touch on something that Jeff brought up a long time ago about how the heck you wrote a character that takes his kid in front of a bus and kills him. How do you get some kind of sympathy for him? And I want to see if anybody else picked up on this or if it's just my weird brain. But in the very beginning, when him and the kid are going and they're talking, their dialogue back and forth, I picked up on Cormac McCarthy, The Road vibe.
Interesting.
And the feeling I got where just the simple sentence, just the simple dialogue back and forth between the kid and the dad, before the tragedy even happened, it just, you could feel that love there, and you could, I don't know, it just hit me.
Well,
it popped into my head that
you could feel the love, and you could feel the dad's disappointment.
Right.
Yeah. Like when he tells, there's a reason that anecdote is in there when the dad's talking about the time he dropped him as a baby.
Right.
And as a parent, having been raised a son, I sort of saw how he would be feeling the way he was feeling. I would never in a billion years consider something this horrible, but I saw it, and I knew I wanted the book to open with tragedy, and I knew I wanted to open it with Henry basically being, basically a mini origin story, in a way, how he got his powers. And I just knew that it was going to be something tragic. And I honestly don't remember. I wrote this book 4 years ago now. So I don't remember exactly how it all came together in my head, but I knew that I wanted the opening scene to be impactful, but also like I said, an origin story of like how Henry came to be. And I don't even remember the impetus for the idea. But interestingly, I was reading Moon Lake by Joe Lansdale recently, and he has a similar scene in his book. So it must not be completely foreign to me, but yeah, it's a rough scene. And it was also I also knew that I wanted to open with Mother, which is why she is the prologue, because I wanted to establish that this was a supernatural book in which there were monsters. And then I think switching to that scene, a lot of people who read that, a lot of people read the book, they kind of forget that there's that prologue where Mother is infecting the corpse with her seed.
Prologue was amazing. It blew me away.
Well, yeah, so that's interesting. So I kind of went from that to this kind of like very intense scene with the bus and everything. So, but yeah, that was the idea, was to create, to establish Henry as sort of the protagonist, and then immediately move into what happened to him while he was in the coma. And it kind of, like I said, kind of an origin story in a way, to how Henry became who he ultimately is in the story, in the novel.
It's cool. Really cool.
I do have 2 questions. One is a little bit more fun, but the first one I will ask, did anyone else draw any, I guess you could say, like, connections to Philip's first story, Mother, with A Child Alone with Strangers? Because as soon as I finished it the first time, I was like, oh man, I need to go back and read Mother.
Oh yeah,
Homage. Yeah, and I kind of felt like an idiot when Philip was like, yeah, they're not tied whatsoever. But yeah, I thought it was like an homage to your first story and your first novel, but I don't know. Was I the only one?
No, you're not the only one.
It's
okay.
The masterpiece we'll never touch.
Yeah.
No. Totally different worlds, universes.
I think they're connected.
No,
I just don't know.
It still costs a lot of money to find out.
Yeah.
No, Mother, no. No, what happens in that story and what happens to Henry, no, two totally
but they're
different
both
things.
mothers, so
You know what? A lot of my early work involves like scary mothers.
yeah.
I don't know why that is, because my mom is amazing and wonderful.
she's a Fracassi freak.
Don't talk bad about Karen.
So it's not a Freudian thing. I think it's just I think what it comes from is like that idea of like the person you trust the most, the person you put your love in the most. Maybe that's, I kind of found the most damaging part and exploited it, but no, totally different universes for sure.
Subconsciously, they're connected.
If it'll make you happy, Mitch,
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then my second question was, baby is birthed from this meth-addled mind. Did the meth affect baby at all? Or did that not play a part whatsoever?
Why was baby birthed from the meth-addled mind?
I thought that baby was in the meth head that was killed by Mother. And then the egg was implanted.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
No, I never thought of that. Yeah, right. She impregnates the meth head.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? That's interesting. No, I hadn't really thought of that. So baby and mother are very different. physically. So the idea is that where mother comes from, the civilization where she comes from, there's a lot of different creatures who are sort of finding their way in civilization, predating humanity and civilization. So so I like the idea there being different variations of the creature, insects combined with human qualities and combined with supernatural qualities, but no, that's really fascinating. But no, in my head, no, baby was just the offspring of mother and something else that we haven't seen.
Okay.
Right. But baby's very different, and that was purposeful. So baby being like a six-limbed, there's really no realistic one-to-one comparison, but baby being sort of like the six-limbed, spidery creature, but whereas mother was sort of almost like humanoid in a way, although she had ant and beetle characteristics. I really wanted baby to be something completely different. So the idea is that baby's father is something that's something we haven't seen before. But not meth adult. So no, so the idea with the meth addict is that he is an incubator.
Yeah.
Like aliens.
Yeah, so she impregnates him.
I just didn't know if
She
the
was
meth
actually
affected baby,
by
like
another
if
alien.
he was a cracker.
And when his head splits and the larvae plops out, she cocoons it and puts it up in the thing, because he's basically like a human incubator. But also the larvae feeds on his flesh and
right. Yeah.
stuff.
Well, I was thinking of like vampires, if they bite somebody who's like on drugs or something.
No, it's a good point. I'm not against it. I didn't think about it when I was writing it, but I could
in the sequel,
But why do you? But baby's not. Baby's cool.
Baby was
not
cool.
It did occur to me, Mitch, as well, that he was probably had some sort of like weird messed upness from the meth.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
Then I was so enveloped in the story, it just never really came back to me.
Yeah, I saw it as baby was just really
I was
hungry.
just like, oh my god, it's crazy as hell. It's a monster.
I saw this baby was really hungry, like a cat. Baby was really hungry, and he woke up in this like house full of meat, and he just went for it. And the only thing that kept them from meeting Henry was that they had this brotherly psychic connection. So he saw Henry as being like him, where he saw everyone else as being, frankly, lunch.
Yeah.
Because you can talk to him.
I would have loved, I would have loved for baby to have lived, because I think he could have been really
well,
cool.
you didn't, Philip.
But if baby could have lived,
nobody to blame but yourself.
You don't want to.
Why did you guys kill baby? Why did you guys kill baby? Why did you guys kill baby? I know if he could have lived, he could have been really fascinating.
I know.
But yeah, I know he died. Maybe his dad will come back in the sequel.
Ooh,
and be equally fascinating. I love the idea of exploring this under earth civilization, and bringing it up to kind of create some havoc in the modern world.
You should do like a short story about it or something, like diving more into it, or another novel.
It would be a novel. It would be a novel. I have some ideas, but I have so much stuff I have to do.
Just don't sleep and write everything
between now and then.
Yeah.
But I would love to do that. It'd be great.
I do have another little anecdote that I have to say. So whenever you were putting that Rapture reference, I don't know if you guys caught it. And also I try not to I don't know. I feel weird just talking about Rapture a lot because it's my.
No, I'll put my sweater back on if we need to.
But honestly, contractually, you need to. But
right. Paid for by Rapture. Right.
Whenever you are doing that reference and you were talking to me about it, I was like, oh, this is so cool. I thought it was going to be Sally because I thought it was going to be like the cop or whatever. I was like, oh yeah, he's like at this bar looking at all these beers. Like, that's so cool. He's like the main protagonist of the story. And then I read it the first time. I was like, oh, so it's like this incestual bad guy. That's cool too.
Right. He was a total. I know. It's what we call in the movies product placement. So, right, where you like if Rapture were a Universal were to ask you to use Rapture in a scene, you'd be like, well, who's drinking it?
Right. Yeah.
The good guy, is it Tom Hanks or is it like a bad guy? So yeah, no, it's definitely a bad guy that drinks the Rapture.
Which is cool too.
But yeah, you know, I mean, I don't know.
It's fine. No, Greg was cool.
He doesn't drink it and then like go crazy and kill a bunch of people. He just
and he didn't even get to try it.
I don't think he even drank it. Right.
Yeah. Right. Like a squirt won't hurt, but he didn't even get that squirt.
Right.
Maybe in the sequel, somebody will. Henry will. But
yeah, so what do you guys think? You guys any other questions you want to ask about the book? I'm happy to answer them.
I'm trying to think if I had anything else. I know that one thing that I highlighted a lot was Mother and like her backstory, which you were kind of alluding to. There was a lot more in the book about her and like where she came from than I remembered the first time I read it.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Was that added?
No, it was always in the book. I think it's in the original stuff too. I think it was just like you probably glossed over it because you were like wanting to get back to what was happening with Henry. But no, I definitely allude to Mother's background. And I just didn't want to get, it was a balance. I didn't want to get too into it. And I'm reading a book right now called Brothers, and it's like I'm dealing with the same kind of situation where the editors are like, well, we want to know more about this character. And I've created this sort of backstory for her, but I also don't want too much of it in the story because I feel like there's an element of like, you just want there to be
some mystery.
20% of tell and 80% of not tell, you know, where you don't know. But it's there, but you just don't want to like preach about like this person's backstory. So I think it's an interesting balance. So with Mother was that exact same thing where I was like, I didn't want to get too into it, but I alluded a couple times that she was part of a larger civilization that lived underground. And I would, even in the sequel, I wouldn't get like too into it, but I would like to attribute more of, and even in the opening epigraph, I mention, I think I say, let's see, in the opening epigraph, I write, there were humans long before there was history. And the point of that is to say, like, these creatures existed before mankind, before civilization, and they were sort of driven underground. And I always saw Mother as being sort of this outcast, very lonely, basically imprisoned on Earth and not able to go back to her world, and for crimes that we don't know about. And I thought that was a really fascinating. And so her response to that was to create another creature out of desperation, and so that she would have somebody to be with. And then when that creature was killed, it's just the devastation of what she felt was not just the devastation of a mother, but the devastation of someone who was just desperate for companionship, you know. And so that's kind of where I was at with her. So I saw her sort of being an alien in the sense of that she was alienated, not just from human experience, but alienated as well from her own world. which is doubly sad. I realize, but
oh yeah, I couldn't remember in the story if you alluded to why she's so tied to the farmhouse itself. Did you say why she's like at that location?
no, that's just where she planted her
Okay.
seed. No, it was just circumstance. No, she planted her cocoon in a place where she thought would be abandoned and safe. And
okay.
yeah,
I didn't know if there was something, with her, I don't know.
No, just no, she killed the druggie,
yeah.
Used him as an incubator, in a place that she thought would be safe, for her child. And just by circumstance ended up being this, home for kidnappers who no random.
I'm not trying to like overtake the conversation, but I did have another question. This is kind of for brothers as well. So whenever I was reading Child Alone, there was a reference to I if I'm remembering correctly, it was like the farmhouse and something with the Civil War that it was tied to. Where does Brothers take place in regards to, like, I don't know, maybe referencing Shiloh or referencing this in Child Alone?
Yeah, no, there's no universe connection. Brothers is basically a whole different mythology. It's for you guys who don't know, Brothers is about 3 Civil War brothers who go AWOL. They run into a witch creature in the woods. Horror ensues. So, but the idea is that the mythology of the witch is based much more in like the Apocrypha. So like the stories of Enoch and the Watchers and that kind of thing.
Yes.
But it's also tied into witchcraft. And then and also the Lilith, the myth of Lilith and her being the night mother and the killer of babies and the spouter and the brother of demons. So there's a lot going on with that. But then ultimately it's like these 3 like guys crashing this pad of this supernatural witch creature. So but yeah, no, it's not directly attributed to anything else. It's got some thin tendrils to Shiloh.
Okay.
But it's really a standalone thing. It's more like it's a lot more body horror than I've done in the past. I haven't written the novel yet, but I know where I'm going. It's a lot more body horror than I've done my other stuff, but it's also more seeped in sort of like traditional mythology. Circe meets, I don't even know what. Like if Circe meets sort of like the witch from Hansel and Gretel, I guess, or meets like Jason from Friday the 13th. So it's pretty brutal. But it's all about this imprisoned being who uses these men to try to escape her situation. But it's pretty dark, pretty brutal. I'm actually really excited to write it. I have a meeting with Orbit and Nightfire in January to go through a lot of it. So hopefully they'll let me do what I want to do.
So is your outline done?
Yeah.
Cool.
Outline's done. Yeah. So it's just a matter of like talking to the editors and making sure they're cool with everything.
That's awesome. I can't wait. Does anyone else have any questions on Child, or we've been going for almost 3 hours?
I know, man. I'm running out of juice. 8:30.
Yeah, I've had a few beers and I'm like, whoa, I'm feeling pretty good.
But yeah, if anyone else has questions, I'm happy to go there.
I mean, I could think of some more, but But this was
Go
awesome,
for it.
guys. Oh, sorry. What?
Then go for it.
Oh, I mean, I have to think about it. I have to sit here for a sec.
Well, I'm glad you guys all read it, and I'm glad you
Yeah.
guys all enjoyed it. It means a lot to me. You know, it was my first genre novel, you know, so like the literary novels I'd written before, one of which came out being Don't to Get You Down. So I'm really happy that the first genre novel I wrote is coming out. And you know, so I'm happy that you guys read it and enjoyed it. And you know, I'd be very curious to see what happens in the next year. You know, I've got Gothic coming out and Boys in the Valley. And then maybe 2024 Observe, maybe Blue Butterfly. I don't know. So I'm just happy you guys have read it and enjoyed it. That makes me very happy. And
yeah.
And I definitely appreciate it.
Like Not Blown Smoke, that was by far my favorite book of the year.
Child?
Same
Child,
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I agree. It was a great book, and for me, it reminded me of when I was I don't know, probably like 15, and I read The Dead Zone for the first time. Just the way it was so emotionally involved in such a damaged character. It was just amazing. I was like, oh my god, I was sucked in. It was just
Yeah, and I think most of you guys have read Boys in the Valley already, but and Gothic too. But it's interesting because like I think this book was very mainstream in a way. Gothic is much more niche horror, I would say. And then I think Boys in the Valley will be sort of like another very mainstream book. So I'm kind of curious to see how it all plays out.
Yeah.
But yeah, all I hope is that ultimately people find the books and read them, and you know, and I control what I can control, but hopefully hopefully folks will like, yeah, find this book and read it and like it. But it's like we said earlier, it's great that people love it. I would like, you know, it'd be great if more people knew it was, you know, knew it was there. But
Are we holding up your dinner?
Huh?
Are we holding up your supper?
What?
Are we holding up you eating dinner?
Oh yeah, it's 8:40 here. I've been eating since like noon.
Because I was like, wait a minute, we've been talking for a long. I was like, I'm used to living on the West Coast, so.
No, we're gonna go. My wife and I watched Jurassic World Dominion last night, which was just a horrible film.
Which
I don't know, whatever was on like streaming.
Because there's a 10-minute version, so you get 10 more minutes of suck, and then there's
Right. No, it was whatever the longest version of Sock was. That was the movie we watched. But no, I'm gonna get off and eat dinner and have another scotch or whatever. But no, but yeah, I'm like I said, I'm happy that the books have done, you know, well critically. I'm super happy that readers have enjoyed them. So nothing else I could ask for. I'm really happy about that.
I got a quick question for you about Don't Let Them Get You Down. I haven't got my copy yet. Should I reach out to Zagava at this point? I think everybody is.
I haven't gotten mine either.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Feel better. That makes me feel better. Okay.
I'm surprised because I think he had shipped everything out by now, but I would definitely email Jonas and just ask for a status. I mean, I'm surprised. I thought that everyone who had ordered that book would have gotten it by now.
I can't remember if I got a tracking number or not. I know I got a shipment notification.
I think if you contact him, he will give you something involving the tracking.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you gotten yours, Steven?
I did get mine. So
you did? Mike, did you get yours?
I was really worried, but it came.
I got mine week before last.
Oh, yeah, you already read yours, Mike, right?
Yeah, I did. I read it in one setting last Sunday.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Yeah.
It's an incredible book.
It is. It's fabulous.
Yeah. I mean, it's no child, but
no, I think everything. I think
600 pages.
I think that you should just email Zagava and just ask for an update. But I'm pretty sure they've all been shipped. but
Okay.
they're coming from Germany. So
Yeah.
He's just
Shipping
waiting
is
on
a
the
nightmare right
enclosures
now.
for the lettered. I know.
the letters are not done. The letters are
Yeah,
definitely,
waiting on the enclosures.
yeah, the letters are definitely not done. The paperbacks are available from Zagava. And then I actually spoke with Zeissings today. They're going to carry some signed paperbacks.
Oh, nice.
So I'm working with them because I
Nice.
can't get enough of the, like I don't have a strong connection with Zagava as to when I would get books. So I'm trying to defer signed copies to to Zeissings. So I'm hoping that Zagava just sends everything to me. I will sign a bunch of copies and I'll send them on to Zeissings, and then Zeissings will be where the signed paperbacks are available.
Nice.
Because I don't have, because people have asked me for signed copies, but it's just too hard to communicate with Jonas. I just don't know when I'll get books or anything. It's all too up in the air. And I know how readers like, to your point earlier, Stephen, to your question earlier, one of the things I know readers want is when will I have it? And if I can't answer that, I don't want to, like, you know what I mean, get in the loop. So I'm kind of hoping that Zeissings takes over the signed paperback version. So we talked about that today, actually, me and Mark at Zeissings.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so hopefully they'll have like signed paperbacks next year, and anyone who wants a signed paperback can just buy direct from those guys.
That'd be nice.
All right, you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining. Philip, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but you down to do another one of these before too long?
Always down to do another one.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I mean, I've got Gothic coming out in February. We could do it for Gothic.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we could do Don't Let Them Get You Down. That one, maybe we'll get
That would be so depressing.
It would be, but man, it's a great book.
We'd all be talking about how depressed we are and how we all went to therapy.
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
But yeah, I'm always down. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love interacting with you guys and readers, and so always open to having this kind of like a meeting, whether it be Don't Get You Down or Boys in the Valley.
We'll definitely do Boys in the Valley next summer.
Yeah, I'm hoping Boys does, like I said earlier, I'm hoping I can get out to some stores for Boys and do a little touring and see some people and meet some people. And I'm working on that right now with the publisher. So trying to figure that out. But I want to get out to I want to come to Tulsa. I want to come to West Virginia. I want to come to Virginia. I want to come to Kentucky, North Carolina. So yeah, so I'm working on
Michigan.
Yeah, so I'm talking about maybe doing something with Josh in Michigan.
Oh, that would be cool.
Maybe at the Books A Million in Southfield.
Whoa, that'd be amazing.
That's like 3 hours from here, right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'll be there.
I might make that trip.
So Josh and I might do Josh Mellon and I might do something at Books A Million. But the thing with Josh is Josh doesn't like to do like signing events. He likes to do weird stuff.
Daphne thing.
So I don't know.
Everybody's involved. I get that.
Right. So he and I are talking. So I'll do something. Hopefully, do something in Michigan with Josh. Yeah, next summer, and then maybe go to the UK and do some stuff with Orbit. We'll see.
Oh, nice. That would be dope.
That'd be really awesome.
Yeah.
Quite the opportunity.
We'll see. You never know. I hope so.
Well, if you think about it, earlier when Greg was talking, he was talking about how a limited series would probably work best for you. Well, the British BBC series is only like 6 hour long episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, whoever wants it, like BBC sounds great. Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm curious to see how
the market is.
Yeah, how the market is, because I've heard different things. I've heard varying reports. I've heard some people say it's strong. I've heard some people say it's a very small percentage of US. So I'm curious to see how it goes. But Orbit has been such a great such a booster. Just really throwing their weight behind me and the book. So I'll be curious to see what happens. I did tell them I wanted to do like a Goldsboro limited edition.
Oh, really?
Mm.
Nice.
So they were going to pitch that. I don't know if that's going to happen or not for boys. I mean, but I would love to do like a cool, limited UK
That'd be
print.
super cool.
That'd be really tight.
I
So
would love a update.
yeah, so I'm working them. I'm trying to convince them to do it. So, but apparently Goldsboro is pretty selective about what they take. So we'll see. But as a collector, I'm like, I would love a sprayed edges.
Oh yeah, the split
Goldsboro edition. Yeah, so we'll see. But I am working on it.
So my question is, when it comes to distribution, granted, there's a ton of Americans and we all live here, but who does when Orbit sells?
I know he's gone. No, sorry.
When the Orbit sells the UK editions, they go to South Africa, Australia, as opposed to the American editions?
So they're
Is
UK
that a bigger deal.
So they're UK Commonwealth. So it's Australia, Canada, Scotland, Ireland, UK, whatever the UK Commonwealth countries are.
Yeah.
It's not just like Britain.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so they're distributing to all those.
So that's more or less the worldwide market.
It's right. It's all English minus the US and they might even. I'm not sure if Canada is separate or if. No, Canada's in there because Canada's part of the UK Commonwealth. So no, Canada, Australia, Scotland, Ireland, UK, all are all in that
bigger potential market in essence.
Yeah, but ultimately, the US outsells all those markets collectively.
It's so wild.
Yeah, that's weird. I know.
Well, if you look at the box office,
everybody gets scared. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. So, but I'm very excited. Orbit's been great. They are really excited about the book. They have some plans for me as an author to promote me. So I'm hoping that it all comes to fruition. You never know. I know Holly Black, has worked with UK presses and been disappointed. So you never know. But the editor seems enthusiastic. So I'm hoping that both the US and the UK editions, catch fire.
Yeah.
For Boys in the Valley. Yeah.
Oh,
we'll see. Yeah.
Cool.
Has there been any news on a child special edition?
No, but that's a me thing. I have an offer, but I'm sort of holding off on it because I really want to work with Levidian. So I don't
offer with.
I don't want to say, but I'm hoping Levidian wants to do it. I think Brian Freeman's more interested in maybe the second Nightfire novel,
Brothers,
being Brothers, because I think he wants books that have wider readership, so that his sales are stronger. So which
he has big runs.
Yeah, he does big runs. It'd be like a 750 run. So I don't know what's going to happen. I would love to see Levidian do Child.
Me too. It'll look great on my shelf. Look great up there.
I really think that book in particular plays into the interior illustrations.
Yeah.
The bigger book, but I don't know. So I don't know. There will be a special edition. But I can't do anything until October 2024.
Yeah.
So regardless. So I'm talking to
October 24 or 23.
Such dicks, man.
No, October 20. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, October 23. You're right. You're right.
Okay.
Yeah. A year after publication. Yeah. October 23. So I'm hoping, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
But it has to be a year after the trade edition.
Right.
So, so I don't know, but I'm talking to multiple presses about Brothers. I'm talking to a couple of presses about, I'm talking to multiple presses about Child. I'm talking to a couple of presses about Brothers. I would love to work with Levidian. I love their books.
Man.
I love Brian's, what Brian does, from a pure collector perspective.
Yeah.
But also, there's other reasons too. But talking to Earthling too about stuff. So I don't know. So we'll see what happens. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. At this point, nothing has been. The only thing that's been confirmed is Thunderstorm doing.
Nope, I got it. We should do the next Zoom when the Beneath the Pale Sky is sent out from Thunderstorm. Isn't that going to happen in January?
I don't know when it's going to actually be sent out. But,
I haven't heard. Yeah.
But they'll be doing Beneath the Pale Sky, Behold the Void, and they will be doing No One Is Safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that
wasn't my news to spill.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's going to happen with the novels, so I'm working on that. There's a lot of considerations. It's not just it's the book, but it's also like what they're paying me, and what they're paying me depends a lot on how many copies they make.
Mm-hmm.
So so we'll see. So we'll see. That'll be a 2023 thing.
Yeah.
But Child will be out in a deluxe edition in 2024. I just don't know from who.
Nice. That's awesome. That's great. Well, I think, it's been 3 hours, so we should probably call this. Thank you guys so much for hanging. And
thank you guys.
Yeah. Philip, thank you for being so involved in the group. You make that group what it is. Truly, it's really special. So thank you for joining us on this book club. We'll do another one. I'll make a post and we'll figure out what we're doing next.
Thanks for hosting, Mitch.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thank you, Mitch, for hosting. Yeah, we should do one for when Gothic comes out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll probably do Gothic and then Boys, and if not, something in between. It'd be fun to do like some of your older ones.
And if any of you guys who are here, because you've reached special status or whatever, but if you want anything, signed book plates, signed books, just reach out and I'll take care of you.
Awesome. Thank you, Philip.
Thank
you. Will.
Everything.
Thank you.
All right, guys. All right. Well, thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate it.
Everyone.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good night. Happy holidays.
You too.
Oh yeah.
You too.
Merry
All right.
Christmas.